audio. We're at
Okay,
506.
ready? We're
Yep.
live on nothing, but let's go. We're recording.
Magic mushrooms really can expand your mind, producing a kind of religious experience.
Awesome. What is going on, everybody out there? What is going on, all the hose heads? Welcome to Strange Brew Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, the Reptilian. And who else do I have as my co-host?
The trippiest Reverend Kaiju, man.
Yeah, I guess I should have. I am dressed like a hippie again, so I should have been like, "What's
With
going
your
on,
fake
man?
ass long hair,
What's
Tom.
going on there, buddy?" And we welcome Shane from Inquiries of Reality. We've worked together a little bit before, but I've been on your show, but we always talked about having you on Strange Brew Podcast, and we always discuss this mushroom episode and how we should definitely do something based on psychedelics. And welcome, Shane.
Thanks for having me finally, bro. Looking forward to it.
I know I'm stoked for this. So obviously everybody out there, we're talking about mushrooms, magic mushrooms, the history of it, the idea of whatever it is, and just like the overall having a whole discussion about, the fun guy that makes everyone a fun guy.
Definitely makes me a fun guy.
I'm a big fan of mushrooms. I've recently become more of a mushroom head. And you know what? I want to know about your guys' experience before we get into, all the nitty gritty details of where it came from and the understanding of this fungus as a whole, psilocybin, cubensis. But I want to know, Shane, you're a new guest, and we have talks to obviously do some stuff together. We have ideas coming down the pipeline is to create like a little show for YouTube. So that's why I always go subscribe to the YouTube. But let me hear what got you into mushrooms? When's the first time you heard of magic mushrooms?
Well, this is a very long story, but I'll try to give you the short end version of it for now. But essentially, I was like just kind of big into like psychedelics in general. Like I always just found like a fascination with like psychedelic art being a teenager. Just I don't know, that whole like weird side of things and the whole possibility of there being like another world that like lays beyond our world. So, I mean, I did like little stuff here and there in high school, but I didn't really get into it heavy until like after high school and stuff. But essentially, basic part of the story is I started off as an alcoholic and I ended up using them to get off of alcohol, starting with LSD and then expanding into mushrooms itself. Ended up becoming a semi-mycologist, growing my own stuff. And it was just like it expands from there. But I would like
to talk to you about eventually, even on another show, of how specifically you grew mushrooms and your like techniques and stuff like that, because there's different ways you can get like half started, or whatever. But I would be interested in doing that because I get all mine off of a site that I trusted for a long time, right? But and for the fans, I know you're talking about you were an alcoholic. I'm drinking a gin and tonic, a really strong one.
I mean, I'm good now, like honestly, but I mean, even for like,
how bad? When you're saying you're an alcoholic, how bad was it? Like, I don't need you to get into nitty gritty details of like, but like, were you like just like full blown, like couldn't not drink every day kind of thing?
Or was like, I used to drink at work, and the end of it was I put myself in the hospital from it. So
that's crazy.
That gives you any kind of an idea.
Yeah, no, that's fucking. And I've always I've kept it at bay. The fans and stuff know that like I almost died from fentanyl and shit like that, which is crazy. Not knowing that I took it, thinking it was coke and stuff like that, and it changed my life because it wakes you up to be like, what the fuck? I've always kept alcohol at bay, but there has been definitely dangerous times. I've told Anton about some of it. It's like it's been where I've a little too much when I was a teenager.
Dude, it's a mental thing for me, at least. It was a matter of like, obviously anybody that's doing these type of podcasts and researching things, like your brain works a little bit differently than most people. Yeah. So it was a matter of like trying to fit in, and like kind of dilute my brain out to kind of be like everybody else. So I was like drinking for a hot minute. And then I got to a point where it was just like, all right, bro, just embrace your fucking weirdness. And then that's when psychedelics got into the expanding your mind, good drugs, as I like to call them, And
100%.
Because
that's how I've been lately. Where I'm like, I've told Anton, I was like, you know what? What was the Halloween episode or the one where we interviewed that psychopath? Where I was like, I'm giving the world full Thomas. Enough is enough. Like it's fucking my balls are in everybody's faces now.
Oh man, that's exactly what this world is missing is full Thomas.
But like it is crazy because like it does, and we'll get into all the things about mushrooms and stuff like that. But it does shift you're addicted. Like I still vape on the show. I like when I'm like having a drink on the show, I vape, but I used to vape every day at work, every break, da da da. And now I've started microdosing. I don't crave it anymore unless I'm drinking.
Dude, honestly, that's kind of where I'm at with shit is that after getting into like psychedelics and everything, it just opens your mind in a different way where it's like if you were somebody that would get addicted to drugs just because of the way they function, it like pulls you away from that addiction thing. Cause it's
It seems like it cuts it off. If you're microdosing, say even twice a week, every week, it will cut off the receptors in your brain that allow that addictive personality. And my mom will fucking vouch for this. I have an addictive personality, have my entire life, right? So it is crazy. I want Anton to get into his stories, but then I'll discuss of like what got me into mushrooms. But Anton, you are a psychonaut to say the least, I would say.
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I definitely I haven't done ayahuasca. I haven't done enough DMT to break through. I've only ever knocked at the gate.
That's what I'm looking
I
at.
didn't have enough.
That's me too, man. Every single time I've ever done it, dude, it's like you get right fucking there, but I haven't made it to the gate yet.
I had two separate DMT experiences to go off that. One of them was at a little festival, which we actually went to after the festival we went to got called off because the groundwater got polluted. And we were just sitting on a little handmade dock in somebody's pond, hanging out, and we put a little bit of it on a bowl. And the best I got was the clouds went pixelated for a minute, and I was like, oh, okay. And then the other time I did it, I smoked it out of a dab rig, and my friends were over. And I think I had enough on that one, but like Leary said, set and setting. I don't think the setting was quite right. So I took a big old fucking globber and laid back and just felt this overwhelming warmth and love and joy and saw essentially the biblical, like the neo-Christian biblical heaven, like the gates and the clouds and all that bullshit.
Really?
And I was floating and I was just like, this is fucking sweet. This is cool. And the first thought I had was, I'm like, my friends are sitting on my bed right now. I can't die right now. I got to go back. And I went back and I was like, damn it. I should.
We'll do that on the DMT episode, and I'll do DMT because this only lasts 6 minutes.
You're not doing DMT and recording anything.
Yeah, no, you're just gonna fall back, dude. I've gotten to the point like right where like I'll hit it when I'm standing up and try to see how far I can go. And like it's gotten fucking weird, bro. Like the one time I started seeing an uni in my pillow, it was fucking weird, dog.
Yeah.
I asked my buddy Raz about that, and I was like, because he's done DMT, and I've actually found a place I trust where you can get it. A pen, and it's like 7 trips or whatever. It depends how long you obviously inhale and stuff like that.
The only problem with the pens is that them bitches get hot before you can fully blast off. So you have to
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like if you want to fully blast off, you got to get the sand. If you're trying to do the carts, you're only going to get halfway there before that shit feels like it's going to explode in your face.
Yeah, you gotta get those nasty little orange crystals and like either do it out of a dab rig, which is how I did it. Just heat it enough to actually vaporize it, and then take fucking Mondo.
Anton, is this a DMT episode?
It turned into one pretty damn quick. I mean, they react the same way with your brain, so I mean, it still kind of fits,
Yeah, you said psychonaut, so I was just giving a little backstory on this one.
Yeah, what age, like when do you remember like hearing about magic mushrooms and what got you into them?
My dad is a fucking head, so he, while going through various severe Christian phases, which always made things difficult for me as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
But he always was the kind of dude that went fishing with his friends and was always like out, doing mushrooms or smoking weed or, doing coke or fucking getting drunk and shit. Like, it's just, he's a head. He's an old school, metalhead head. And so I was always aware of drugs, like always.
What was what age did you first ingest mushrooms?
The age that I first ingested mushrooms, I would honestly say probably 20.
Really?
Yeah.
So like
I didn't know enough people that had it. Like I'd done other psychedelics first. Like I did acid before that. I did salvia before that.
Interesting.
I did
I feel like
pure
Dex easier to get anyways before mushrooms. Mushrooms are a little bit harder to get,
Such a different experience than what I had.
I was obsessed with venomous animals and poisonous plants as a kid. So I was always a little weary where I'm like, what happens if I get mushrooms and I do them for the first time and somebody just was like, I'm going to go make fucking $40 real quick and gave me a bag of mushrooms they picked from their yard. So that was the paranoid me. I didn't know enough people. And then the first time I did it, I ate an eighth. My first
It-
I just ate 3.5, my first one, and I just had a great time. I sat there with a bunch of friends in the middle of the park and just laughed my ass off. I wasn't kicking in fast enough, so we all went and did somersaults down a hill. And I
That's
remember
funny.
I got to the bottom of the hill and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
that's
Bruh.
fucking funny.
it's like the dizziness hasn't gone away. This is awesome. And then, it's almost like that scene in Tenacious D where I'm just walking, touching plants, just like, everything's just
Bigfoot is my
beautiful right
daddy,
now.
and
Yeah.
he wants to
You
protect
me.
That's fucking funny. It's such
yeah.
a weird, different experience than what I had. Like, cause I never heard about, like, I heard about like obviously acid and stuff like that, but no one we knew had it. But like, my friends did mushrooms when they were like 14, like
I would have
fairly
loved to
young.
have done. If I'd have had access to mushrooms when I was 14 and I'd have started microdosing, I would probably have actually completed and gone through school because I would have had some sort of direction.
Me
rather than
too.
the
Me
aimless
too.
seeking
And I was
that
always
spent most of my
afraid
life
of it.
doing.
I was always afraid of it. So like we always like we smoked tons of weed. Smoked weed young. I fucking got drunk the first time at like
Mhm.
12. I've had sex young, did everything young. But the thing is, like, with my mind state, and I was in and out of like juvie and shit like that, is that I was afraid of what I might go through and stuff like that. And I saw my friend, and he, like, this is a kid that we would smoke him up and he would be high for like 4 hours. Like, just off of weed. This kid, I don't know, 3-4 hours, he would still be stoned. I'm like, how are you still high, man?
Dude, back in
And
high
he-
school when I used to smoke, I'd still be a little bit stoned the next day. I don't know why or how that worked,
That's
but I can
crazy.
vouch for that one.
Sometimes, yeah, I would agree.
We used to get, just as a stupid story, we used to get this kid fucking stoned, and we all had music class together, and for some reason this teacher was so stupid. He gave us we wrote down like the instruments that we would want to play, and then everyone kind of got to pick one or whatever. Like, he would draw from a thing and pick what people should be playing, and we all put down tuba as our number 3 as a funny thing, and he all gave us tuba. It was a bad idea because we would get this kid really stoned where he couldn't even look at the teacher. You know how music class is set up with a bunch of chairs, obviously, and then you have the teacher in the front. He would like be like this. Like, not even want to look at the teacher. And,
I can't make eye contact. He'll
yeah,
know.
like, and he would call him out too. And it was very funny because then it's just like we all had a tuba. We kept blasting it. He's like, stop blasting the instrument. He was like the fun kid to fucking get stoned because you would just laugh at him. And he did mushrooms once, and he said 1,000 hands felt like they were touching him. And he was like freaking out, had a bad trip. And it made me conscious of like what it could do to my mind as a kid. And the crazy thing is, if I would have done mushrooms earlier, I probably would have never went through a lot of the bullshit that I went through because I was like addicted to alcohol and weed and stuff like that at a very young age. And it would have changed my life. So I didn't really do it till I was in my like early 20s, maybe even like 24, 25. And me and Chelsea did it the first time together. And I just remember laughing like crazy and like shadows because we had the lights off and like just the lava lamps going and stuff like that, set and setting, right? And I just remember shadows. I was like, we had a clock on the wall and the shadow was like moving on the gun. I was like, weird. I'm starting to like see shadows. I started walking around. And I've told Anton the stories that we were watching. Like, we're like, what do we throw on? Let's throw on animal documentary. And then like Chelsea was watching like the fish like eat off the whale's body. And I was like, I can't watch this right now.
You're just adding into mushrooms. Have you guys watched any of those like animal documentaries? They
I
talk about
love them.
cordyceps with ants.
Oh yeah,
Like, that
cordyceps, I
shit
take
is fucking
cordyceps all the
mind
time.
blowing on mushrooms. When
That's
you're on
crazy.
mushrooms, washing mushrooms, like eat other shit, like it's fucking crazy, dog.
Oh yeah, because cordyceps, because it's weird because I take now I'm gonna do a video about this for YouTube and stuff like that, but I take like cordyceps, lion's mane, and turkey tail. And turkey tail defends against cancer and stuff like that. And like I take all these stuff like daily. So I've like dived really deep into this fungi stuff, and I found like a good trusting place up north called the Ugly Barn. And it's a little expensive because it's like natural and pure, but it's helped me, man.
Paul Stammet has some good stuff. I don't know if you can get it in Canada
Yeah.
and stuff, but just a funny story with
He's in
cordyceps,
BC.
though. It's crazy that like with small animals, it basically is like a parasitic thing, but then with
Yeah.
people, it gives you energy. Like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, it is weird because people use it for working out and stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy because like I got into it recently, and then when me and Chelsea did it like four times maybe at the old place we were living at, and I was getting off this kid. And I don't care. I'll say about this kid, but he was this guy I work with. He was gay. And him and his partner were furries, which is an interesting thing. So he actually, as weird as it is, everything happens for a reason. This kid got me into Alan Watts, and I love Alan Watts.
Mhm.
And he would tell me, he was like, "Oh yeah, me and where was the fucking he called him his husband. I don't think they were even married though. And they would do acid and dress up like furries and fuck." And
Dude,
I was
what
like,
animals were they? I gotta know. It's important.
I'm just
He
picturing
showed me
blue
pictures.
fucking wolves for some reason. Like, it's the
I
go-to
was picturing a
generic
wolf,
furry. Yeah.
It like dog. They did the dog fetish shit. Too
Okay,
with,
were they pups? Because that's a
Yeah.
whole different thing. Were they leather mask pups? Because that's not a furry.
both.
Okay.
And he showed me the costumes, and he went to like the furry con. Like he was showing me my buddy Joe when we worked together, and he had the full on costume. And I feel like it was like, it just looked like a natural, like not natural, but like it looked like just the normal like brown fur and fucking white belly. And like Anton's always like, don't kink shame. It's fucking
Don't
strange.
yuck
shit.
anyone's yum. As long
I
as
know.
consenting adults, I don't care what you do.
It's
People
so strange.
combine those two, the pup and the furry thing, where they'll dress up as a furry, but then add
Yeah.
the puff stuff to the furry, so it's like a double
I'm
thing.
sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen people in full body fur costumes with a leather pup mask, and I'm just like, good for you, but
It's kind of crazy.
don't get it.
The fact that they were like, he told me that they would like do mushrooms or especially acid, and they would he was just way too open with me sometimes. Where I'm like, oh cool, like I just want to get mushrooms off you.
Have either of you ever had sex on acid?
Yes,
I haven't done.
I thought
acid.
I broke my dick. No joke. And my girlfriend was playing into it. She's like, I think your dick is sideways. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's what Chelsea would do. That's what
It's one of those like you pull back too far and then you hit the middle thing. And it was just
Yeah.
like, oh.
That's fucking fine. I broke it. It's done now. Because this year I want to, like I've told Anton that we want to get away to a cabin and do it together and experience it. Because it wasn't as readily available as mushrooms were. I knew tons of dudes that were doing mushrooms all the time, and I was in, especially like I knew, I was 16, 17. Dudes that are doing mushrooms, and this is when I started getting balls deep in the reptilian conspiracies and listening to David Icke and all that stuff. And I was like, I was legitimately afraid if I did mushrooms that I would see reptiles.
Dude, if
That
you
was
was
my
done
one
mushrooms when
fear.
you were a teenager and you were still completely hormonal and unbalanced, you'd be like a Joel Osteen Christian right now, and we would not be speaking to each other.
I don't know about that. I don't know
Dude,
about
I'm
going down. Like
curious.
I've never been into religion ever.
It could go the other way though, man. Like I knew a bunch of people like in high
Yeah,
school
fuck.
that started out as like,
I'll never.
I
be one
wouldn't
of
say
those
they were
people.
proper weirdos because we were the proper weirdos, but like they tiptoed into the weirdo circle, and then they started doing like, I remember like it started with them robo tripping, which is fine. If you just do
What's
dextromorphin, it's
robo-tripping?
fine. Dextromorphin.
What the fuck is that shit?
You eat an entire fucking jar of Robitussin capsules.
Oh, that sounds not like
What's
a
the
fun
one where you
time.
do the fucking a bunch of Benadryl all at once and you feel all fucking heavy and shitty?
That okay, so I've never gone down the Benadryl thing. That's the one where they're like the spiders, man. I'm like, I've had Benadryl for allergies before and then fought through the tired, and it's a fucking trip. But
Dude, I
I've
remember
never-
one time
I've
I
done
did that
Xanax,
shit.
and
I
that's
took
like
a whole
it.
fucking bottle. And I remember being face down on my floor in the dark at night, and I literally
Yeah.
thought that the shadows were trying to get me. It was fucking one of the worst experiences, bro.
That's crazy.
I
was
did
in with
a lot
alcohol,
of
weed.
dextromorphin back in the day, because it was the easiest thing for all of us to get, and we would just do it in like 8 or 9 people groups. And yeah, dude, you have some of the craziest, most like I had a time travel one with that. I went to hell with that one.
That's so weird. That's another topic for. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. I knew this fucking kid. He loved Nirvana. Looked like a fucking. He looks like I do now. Just and
the
weird.
hair.
Weird thing is he's dead now, and drugs took his life. And recently, and I grew up with this
Tragic.
kid. Yeah, it's sad. But he would I remember the one time we were hanging out at my house. No one was home during high school. He was actually dating this chick that dated me first, and it was kind of a weird situation because I knew her, and he was like going through my mom's pills and like looking through
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
fucked.
this is lithium in it, and I'm like, oh man, fucking, I was into that. I was never into that shit. Never into pills. I like drank and smoked weed. That was my fucking jam for a
Yeah, I was-
long time.
I never fucked with pills either for the longest time, just because like I was always on a ton of fucking pills as a kid, and it was the last thing in the world that I wanted to do.
That's what
So,
they tried to do
like-
with me. You're gonna take Zoloft. Oh, go on Concerta. Oh, go on. And I was like, I'm not taking any of that shit. Fuck you.
My
I'll get drunk.
my egg donor just decided that was the best way to get me put on disability and get money for her, so that's why it was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, cool, let's just but that's a story for a different fucking
Yeah,
um
for shizzy.
but when I started smoking weed, I was like, I think 12 the first time I smoked weed.
Yeah, same.
And then like I was like 16 when I started consistently smoking every day, and it just changed
Same,
everything. Like I didn't need anything or any assistance from any of the shit that they had me on. Not that I needed it in the first place, but when you're a young impressionable kid, they're like, yeah, this works. You're like, okay.
Dude, literally same boat for me, dude. I started smoking when I was like 13. Then I was 16. I had like anger issues and shit. And my mom was like forcing me to go to therapy, but I didn't talk to the dude. And then I started smoking weed heavy and I started coming in just like totally relaxed. And he's like, whatever you're doing, it's working for you. So continue doing it.
That's so funny. All of us,
whatever you're doing as he's spraying air freshener.
And this is
I have no fucking idea. Opens a window like.
This is why you subscribe to the Patreon, because I said that I want Shane on for a Stranger Danger episode where we can get to know each other a little more and kind of like it's all uncensored shit, because like I grew up going to therapy and it never worked to me. To be honest, I've
Therapy's
had more
great. Medication, not so much, unless you.
I've had more revelations.
Mushrooms are my therapy.
Yeah, exactly. I've had more revelations and more with mushrooms. Mushrooms have fixed my head in the past year more than any therapist has ever done for me. Ever.
Dude, same with mushrooms, weed, and LSD. Hands down.
Yeah. So let's actually just get into this stuff, because we can talk about like stories and stuff throughout this kind of thing. So magic mushrooms. Once a term used to strike fear into the hearts of most people in Western culture, are now witnessing something of a comeback. And people are realizing that not only are they maybe perhaps not bad, but they might even be pretty amazing. We're going to take you on a brief journey into the world of magic mushrooms and our long relationship with them, which is pretty interesting because obviously this goes way back in the day. And just like a psychedelic trip, it creates the history of psilocybin has been long and a winding journey, just the same as you would feel on a mushrooms. A long journey. It's crazy, man. Like how far this shit does go back in our history is mind blowing.
Well, I mean, if we're going to the Terrence McKenna level, I mean, it goes back to prehistory. Like,
yeah,
which
is
the reason that we are. Yeah,
we'll get into the Stone Age theory down the road. I want to do. Chelsea just walked up the stairs and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Oh my God, Chelsea, come snatch that fucking wig off of him and yell work.
Yeah, I know. We'll get into the Stone Age theory because that's like a big thing. Which even in our plans for actually the Christmas special this year will be all about how the magic mushroom is connected to Santa Claus and shit like that. So that will be fun.
Oh, you mean the mushroom shaman?
Yeah, there's just some fucking deep shit with that. So from its use in religious rituals and ancient cultures and civilizations to its rise to stardom and the counterculture movement, obviously in the 60s, from the breakthrough scientific research to the dark ages of magic mushrooms, the history of psilocybin in many ways mirrors the human history. Though you may not learn about it at school, human history is full of drug use. Tons.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, the whole, the culture is so obsessed with intoxicants and sex. It's like that's literally human existence.
Yeah, it's literally.
Go back to the Greeks, bro. They had that yearly festival where they'd all basically take like magic wine and they'd all just like have an orgy with each other, and that was just a yearly normal thing.
Get little boys and suck them off because that's what fucking Romans did.
Greeks are definitely doing that too.
Some of us just want to picture.
Like,
some of us just want to picture like, normal aged people, a bunch of oiled up Greek dudes fucking each other, not kids. So
I can't help it because now that
I bring it up, and I'm like,
when I dived into the Roman,
Tom's like, kids, ruined
the Roman thing and Saturnalia and shit. All that stuff is like fucking.
Well, Saturnalia is fucked up because that ended in human sacrifice.
Yeah, a lot of stuff does. Well, we'll get to. And we'll get into the Aztec things, but I just want to say it right now because I didn't know this. We're gonna get in the Aztec soon, but did you guys know that the Aztecs would give fucking mushrooms to people that they were going to sacrifice?
You told me that today, and that's pretty nuts.
You know how fucking frightening that is? Because the guy's like
that?
Ripped out in his heart. I actually was watching a YouTube video about it, which I did look it up, and there is, because they would do rituals and ceremonies ingesting mushrooms, and they would also like do it towards their gods, right? They would sacrifice someone for the gods, and we'll get into like the gods of the flesh of the gods is what they call the mushroom. But I never knew that they would, and I could see them doing it anyways, right? Because it was part of the ritual. You have to ingest also some sort of like also this component of it would, I'm sure it like went into the rituals, but the fact that you'd be tripping balls with who knows how much they gave you, and then this guy's like staying over you with a knife and be like, Kali, ma, whatever the fuck they say in Indiana Jones.
Dude, in all fairness though, if you were gonna be sacrificed, like I don't think there's any other way to do it. Like fucking load me up with as many fucking drugs as possible, because that's the only way
I
you're gonna
agree
get
with
into
that
that
too.
experience. Otherwise, you're gonna be sitting there at that last second, like, all right, wait, I changed my mind. I'm not doing
I
this.
don't do this.
I don't want to do this.
Well, so here was my thing with that. I feel like that could work either way. Say you're like a rival tribe that's being sacrificed because you've been conquered or what have you, and they give you that. You'd probably freak out. But if you're one of those people that they're like, you are the chosen sacrifice for the gods, you're going to be with the gods, and they load you to the gills on strong hallucinogens,
Like,
you very well may be in whatever afterlife already by the time they're cutting into you, and you're just
and
like,
you don't really have fear in some extent to.
Although the thought of getting stabbed while tripping is the most horrific thing that I think
I couldn't
think of.
imagine
Like
what
if
that
somebody
would
just
be
coming
like.
towards you with a knife and you're like, oh my God, just like,
Aaron said that too, where it's like, would you rather be shot, like a shot or stabbed? Shot 100%. I would never want to get the feeling of like just getting like, you're Linda Kasabiing it and just like getting stabbed fucking 40 times. Like, fucking no.
Well, it depends where you're getting stabbed the first time, in all fairness, though, and getting shot.
You'd be like, Stu, be like, man, you're coming too deep. It's like, that's the point. I was trying to cut you too deep.
Yeah, if I'm getting stabbed in the jugular where I'm barely feeling it versus getting shot in the kneecap or the gut, I think I'll take the stabbing.
That's what I'm saying.
It's from ancients using opium to Hitler taking meth, there's no shortage of priests, emperors, tyrants, and normal folk indulging in mind-altering substances. The drug with perhaps the longest recorded history of in human use is psilocybin, and psychoactive compound that's in magic mushrooms. So people that don't know, it's the psychedelic compound in mushrooms is psilocybin or psilocybin cubensis, and then when you ingest it, it turns into psilocin. Which it could reacts in your gut and then it goes into your nervous system essentially, and that's why like it's weird because the way it affects you is interesting because the way it goes in your nervous system. Like there's sometimes where like because I do them all the time. I'm like I feel like not itchy, but my hair feels weird, like on my skin. Like it's a weird feeling where my hair feels like I can feel it growing.
Do you get like a twitch sometimes, or you like feel like a twitch in your arm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the weird. If I my carpal, because I have carpal tunnel, if it's bad one day, it will like show me. Like when I took, and I'll get into maybe in the end of this. Like I've tried blue meanies, I've Thrasher in the fridge and Golden Teacher. Blue meanies are fairly strong. Thrashers are like really strong, and it was like I did a tea of 7 grams of it, the highest dose. I'm taking it as a tea, not ingesting it, like through eating it. But the one time we did blue meanies, like it fucking my wrist, I was like, oh, I could feel it inside, like my carpal tunnel was fucking weird.
Are they the OB ones?
Tell you
the blue meanies. Are they the OB ones?
What do you mean OB ones?
Okay,
Obi-Wan?
so just a little bit of a backstory about blue meanies. In the 90s, there's this guy that was coming up with genetics, and his name was Jet Fuel, and he came up with the OB1 blue meanies. So that's like the original OG blue meanies. And then there's side variations that people have created because they haven't been able to have that original
I just tried. Yeah.
And those are just called blue meanies. But if they're the OB1 blue meanies, then they're from the original genetics of the original Jet Fuel who made that.
That's cool. And I was just talking like what, as far as I know, White Widow and the weed strain doesn't exist anymore. It's been.
I always knew that as being weed laced with coke, and then all of a sudden people just started calling strains that.
No, White Widow was like, I grew up smoking White Widow and AK and stuff like that, right? That was like AK-47, these like main strains, right? And I was talking to a chick at the dispensary, and I was like, did you guys ever get White Widow? And she's like, because they have like Black Widow. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she's like, White Widow, as far as she's looked into, has been lost.
I used to get White Widow in Colorado all the time, like when the dispensaries first opened up out there. They always had AK, they always had Trainwreck, they always had White Widow, they always had Northern Lights.
I miss White Widow. That's why I smoke.
Always like the big main strains.
Coming from somebody that works in the cannabis industry, dude, every single strain isn't what you think it is. Like,
no, I know.
Coming from the inside, like if they just call the strains whatever the fuck they want. Nobody knows where they come from. There's no such thing as a sativa or an indica anymore. Everything is just so intermixed.
Really? That's
everything's
fucking
a hybrid
sad.
now. Dude, like the industry from the inside is totally different than what people see on the outside, bro.
And
like,
we should do that as a full episode for Strange Brew. I think that'd be a great
easily,
idea.
dude. I got
so maybe
so
you should
much
come on
from
the
the
history
inside
of marijuana. That's fucking kiss, man.
But I'll see the high ups too, just sitting there and have a bunch of weed in the vault, and then they'll just start calling it random ass names, and they sell it as that name.
That's fucking sad. And I don't know if
the scene from Pineapple Express where he's just walking around being like, "This is this is this." Yeah.
Literally that, and they call everything. They put the word jungle in it where I work, and I'm just like, no, don't do that. You had the word jungle in it. It just sounds like some trash weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like Nipper.
Or just
but,
a bowl that everybody poured their booze into, and you're like, ugh.
Or they do
I
all the
would like
fruit
to
and
dive
shit.
into that because
Wasted.
I don't know how Canada is, and as much as like I love the dispensary, I go to one specific one that all the people are like the greatest people ever. Like the one.
Well, the company that owns my company now is a Canadian company. It's called TerraSen. So I'm sure it's all the same
Oh.
inner workings. And the company that I work for is called Gauge, which was originally a Canadian company, and then it came to Michigan.
You know what I
So
do now?
Everything I do is Canadian based.
I just smoke. You know what I mean? And like I find what I like. Right? Wedding cake. I just got recently. Like I find what I like, and then I'm like, more of that. I have these mango like fucking small joints are fucking delicious. Anyways, that's for the weed episode. But like obviously this drug has been in our history, and in our like it's crazy. Like it's surrounded humanity since our beginning. Magic mushrooms is a broad name given to any mushrooms in the psilocybe genome and the genetics of what creates and like this mushroom. And there's tons of them. Obviously, this is just there's so many different. There's over 200 known species of psilocybin cubensis, which is fucking crazy. 200. That's why I'm like, Chess, like, do you need to keep buying? Like, she's like, you find one you like and you stick with that. And I'm like, no, I want to keep experimenting. And then I've never tried penis envy, and they're supposed to be one of the strongest mushrooms.
Have you had ape before?
No. So I'll go through what I've had.
I would say that's albino penis envy, but everybody knows it as ape. So I figured I don't know if you actually had it before.
I started with B+. Normal. Like I didn't mind B+. Then I tried blue meanies, and those were like far more potent. And because I was doing on that psychedelic page, I did blue meanies. That was, and blue meanies were strong, and I liked them because the best visuals I've ever had was chewing blue meanies, where me and Chelsea were. I've told Anton about the story. We were listening to we had music on, and then we fucking were listening to Alanis Morissette, and we're like, she looks just like the dude from Foo Fighters, like just like him. And we're like, it was weird. And we're sitting there, and then like I laid back, and I was like, it's crazy the shit you could see, because I could see geometric patterns. And like I'm saying, like 3D shit. I always describe it as, in Harry Potter when he puts on the cloak and you can kind of see him.
The fractals.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was in front of my face. All this stuff was like moving around, and it's like it's an incredible experience. And I've tried blue banshees; those were pretty fucking nice. Mesotepic, those are my Mesotepic tech. They're the ones that Marina Sabini, the chick from Mexico, she does rituals with them. I like them because they are like, to me, lighter. Where it was like 2 days before Halloween or whatever, I did like 3 grams and I carved my pumpkin tripping balls. And I was like, but I could, it's not that, the heavy feeling you get in your brain like that. It doesn't do that.
Where you can't focus on stuff. You're kind of just like one track mind on something.
Yeah. And your brain is like, you do that feeling in your brain, that heaviness. I can't even describe the fuzziness, as my buddy describes it. And I didn't have that, but you can still I could go out and do things on this strain. That's why I like that strain, and I'm going to go towards it more often. And then I got Golden Teacher. I don't like. I've tried Golden Hillbilly or Hillbilly Gold. Didn't liked it. It's fine. But I told Anton that I've noticed that the Golden Teacher, the stuff with gold in it, that's
like the most generic strain I could possibly think of. That's like the Gorilla Glue number 4 of mushrooms.
It makes you
Golden
feel,
Teachers.
I don't even like it. Like it makes me feel tired. Every time I've done Golden Teacher, I feel like tired and depressed at first. Then it kicks in. But the beginning of it sucks.
That's why they're called Golden Teachers. They're trying to teach you some shit.
Yeah, and I don't want to be learning right now. I want to be tripping. So I still have in my fridge, and I'm like, maybe I'll do them sometime or whatever. Blue Banshee, the thinnest stems I've ever seen out of a mushroom, and it's a strain between blue meanies, obviously, and there's another one, and I like them. They're pretty potent because the thicker the stem, supposedly the more psilocybin it holds, and they were really thin, where you're able to just eat them. And then I got the Thrasher.
Chewing on a fucking chunky knuckle.
For 10
minutes.
I'm not going to do this because they'll probably get pulled from if we put this up on YouTube or whatever, right? But the Thrasher ones I have the thickest stems. I think I showed Anton like a video. It's so thick, it's ridiculous. And they're supposed to be some of the most potent next to like the penis envy ones that I'm gonna try next. It's
All I'm
crazy.
saying is throw those bitches in an electric grinder or
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
a mortar
I
and
usually
pestle
make
and capsule those fuckers.
I was gonna say I usually make shroom tech tea. That's usually my way of going. Anytime I
Yeah,
ingest.
yeah, I do that too. And that's why I'm gonna do a video for YouTube about this of how to make the beginner's guide, because I've had people ask me to talk about it, just because my experience. But there's so many strains, and I'm like, I will go through this journey for as long as I live if I'm able to access them and try different strains. But obviously, like when I have a kid and stuff like that, like I'll be more wary of doing this on an off time.
You just
You know
do it
what
at
I mean?
night. That's usually my go-to. Just to throw in some weird
I
genetics
might do
into
them
the
tonight.
mix
I
here.
don't really care. I'm off
Have you-
tomorrow. Like,
Have you ever heard of Enigma?
is it a strain?
Performance
Yeah.
artist?
No, it's a strain of mushrooms.
Okay.
Oh, really? Not Jim Carrey.
So okay,
in
so let me
Batman.
explain these things. They're fucking weird, dude. They grow like coral, like they look like a brain, and they're really, really hard to grow. Like there's a trick to them that is one of those like trade secrets. So I don't want to give it out because there's like Facebook pages dedicated to how to grow these damn things.
Okay.
But dude, they're
You need
they're
to
like
talk
a
to me either
mutation.
off air on a Patreon episode. I want to know.
Yeah, I'll tell you after the show for sure. But pretty much like they're a mutation of ape, which is albino penis envy. But it's like a
Yeah.
stronger mutation, and it grows like thick ass coral, dude. That's probably one of the best mushrooms I've ever had. They're really light, but
Really?
they hit you like they're mentally light, but they hit you heavy at the same time. Like they're really heavy on the visuals. Like they're
Oh, okay.
Try
Fucking awesome.
mesotepic ones. You should. I think you would like those ones. It's interesting because I'm just diving down these different like strains and stuff like that, and what it makes me feel. And like my buddy that I grew up with and stuff like that, he was getting into them for a while and changed his life as much as it's changed mine. And I want to start going forward, especially before I'm getting married next year. I want to have we're thinking about having kids and all that stuff. I want to start like categorizing it. Like I've said to Anton, we're like even if it's for 5 minutes, either writing it down or videotape myself and be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. So people understand what strain they might want to go with. Because I think it's important to like learn about this stuff. And I was joking that I was like, if I could work at a shroomery, I would 100% do that. I'd run one.
You got to do it at the start and then at the peak. So then at the start, you'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling light. At the peak, you'll have like your primal makeup on, no shirt on, just like,
Yeah.
go. And then by the end of it, you'll be like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty.
You know what my
relaxed, man. The
joke is
universe
always?
great.
I'm gonna get back into the history, but my joke is always that I'm gonna end up like I'm gonna go in the forest. I'm gonna be Robin Williams and Jumanji, fucking like freaking out.
Dude, that's always my biggest fear of doing mushrooms in the woods is just I'll just disappear into the woods and you'll find me like 3 weeks later, wearing like a giant leaf loincloth, just like talking a primitive language that I came up with.
We should 100% do a live special and just talk about mushrooms overall and our experiences. Cause like Anton knows during the summer, we have a projector outside in these comfortable like chairs that we put cushions on. And I was doing mushrooms every weekend, and we were watching movies like I watched The Village high as fuck, like on 4 grams of mushrooms, where everything around the movie was like
it
a
actually good
kaleidoscope.
on 4 grams of mushrooms?
And then I was like, at the end of it, I was like, oh shit. And I realized, because I haven't seen it since I was 13, my buddy fell asleep in the movie theater when we saw it. And like,
Good
I was
for
like,
him.
and
That movie's ass.
it is whatever. I like M. Night Shyamalan to an extent. He's doing stuff. It was different.
It was like a
but then-
one-time watch movie. Once the twist is
Yes.
ruined, it's over, but it's worth watching once.
I forgot
I would
about
agree,
the
but
twist.
like I feel like that one just has the biggest plot hole out of everything. It's like, you mean to tell me not one fucking plane flew over that village ever?
Yeah.
Ever.
not
Not
one person through
horn, not
history ever
one
tried to
stone.
leave.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Nobody was like, I'm just gonna adventure and create my own area to live in.
Yeah,
Like
'cause
nobody.
At the end, I started to realize, I was like, oh yeah, the big twist. And I was like, oh, trip it out. It
What a
made me-
twist!
Yeah,
What a
I watched The
twist.
Witch on mushrooms, which tripped
That's
me out like
fucking awesome.
crazy. That shit was fucking nuts, man.
Especially
That
when the
movie's
goat
fucking-
starts talking to the fucking kids.
Oh,
You're just like, what?
man.
Would
And
thou
then Chelsea's
like
like,
pretty
Chelsea's like, I
dress?
don't think it's as crazy as you think it is. And I got in this thought about all the times I've used Ouija boards and messed with the occult and how long witchcraft and that demonic force stays with inside of our
That's-
history. It was like a crazy trip.
That's
I
how
was
you
like,
get scared and end up Christian.
yeah, I could see it. And then, but every time I take a piss and I could see like looking out to, we have a big backyard, looking out to the back of it is like fucking crazy. Let's get back into it because I want to do a whole live and we'll discuss
So
a bunch
one
of
thing
stuff.
on movies on mushrooms.
Yeah.
So
Oh
I,
yeah.
I've told this story before, but Shane, I don't know if I've ever told you this story. So my buddy and I I don't know what the strain was. It was just at the time where it was like, oh, let's just fucking, we got some shrooms. We got some good shrooms. Like, okay, cool. and we both ate like about 4 grams each. And the whole time I was like, let's go camping. Let's go, let's just take a weekend, go do whatever. Because for me, when I'm tripping, I'm like, I'm not gonna say I have to be, but I greatly prefer to be either near running water or anywhere that I can just take my shoes off, dig my feet
Spiritual
into the mud,
connection.
and just chill.
You
Like
just have to
that's
have
how I ground
outside
myself
time.
when I'm tripping.
Yeah, like if you're tripping balls on mushrooms, bro, like you gotta have outside time. Even if you pop out for like 5 minutes every hour, like you gotta do
Smoke a joint.
Oh
or
no, I
something,
need
yeah.
to like just go like not primal to the unga bunga like fucking level, but like just like I'm gonna go, walk around with my toes thoroughly in the mud and just sit near a tree and just soak it in. Like the one time when we dropped acid, I sat in a creek for an hour. It was just running, and there was a little fuzzy rock that I went and just laid on and looked up, and the canopy of trees had a perfect triangle in it. The sunlight that was great. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. My buddy's like, no, let's watch Meet the Feebles.
Oh God.
I love Peter Jackson. I have a Dead Alive tattoo. I absolutely love Peter Jackson. And I'd only seen Meet the Feebles once before, and I didn't remember it. And let me tell you, obviously, as I'm sure you know, because you laughed when you heard it, but for anybody that doesn't know, that movie
I've never seen it.
Pretty fucked up and pretty great when you're, drunk or stoned. But on mushrooms, all of the character stories individually are so human and fucked up that that's all I could focus on. And by the end of the movie, I turn and he's just got his hoodie scrunched up around his face. And he goes, we should have gone camping. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was like, you fucking did this. This is our night now. We're all just sitting here like, well, I'm depressed.
Anton wants to do a Patreon episode, and I was like, "Oh, I'll do mushrooms and watch it." He's like, "No, let's just drink and watch it."
Yeah, I was like, you will absolutely not take mushrooms and watch Meet the Feebles.
There's a lot of movies that you watch sober, and you're like, "This would be great to watch on mushrooms." Then you instantly regret it. Dark Crystal is also one of those movies.
Oh yeah, Dark Crystal would be
sure
fucking
is.
Anything with puppets and shit. Oh man, I've watched some dark shit. Like I watched It Follows on like 2 grams of mushrooms. That shit was fucking crazy.
Dude, that place is filmed. Just a little fun part. Everybody knows my fucking weird Wendigo shadow people story. Mm-hmm. The part in that movie where they're sitting in an abandoned lot behind a building, that's Northville. That's the place that I'm always telling everybody about.
Oh no,
they filmed that shit in Michigan.
That's crazy because we could always do a revisit to the Wendigo. We've covered it, but like that's what I'm saying about that live that we want to do about like talk about cryptids as a whole, even. Like just getting into all sorts of different cryptids would be really fun. Because like me and Billy covered the Michigan Dogman, and Billy loved that shit. He's like, "What the fuck?" So let's get back into this. So obviously, there's all these different strains of mushrooms. They all contain psilocybin. Due to the number of species and the diversity of those species, magic mushrooms can be found in many places of the world. There's like tons in Canada, tons in Europe, and stuff like that. Like it's surprising now where I'm like, can I go looking for them? Because Paul Stamets like. My homie, like I would love to, if I could ever get him on the show, if I ever had the opportunity to get him on the show, I would absolutely adore that because I love that man. I've watched so many of his talks, but he lives in BC now because like he like goes mushroom hunting and stuff like that. And so obviously it's found in places in the world. So no wonder we have such a long kinship to it in humanity. Magic mushrooms have been used since the birth of civilization 12,000 years ago, and possibly used even before then when cave people were existing, because this is a cave drawing of mushrooms, where obviously it looks like mushrooms, it's interpretation, right? But we're showing a picture and it's like one of the most famous cave drawings when it comes to magic mushrooms. Fucking weird. Bunch of penises. Isn't it weird that the mushroom looks like a penis? It's like a
with wigs on.
Yeah.
My question is, I don't know if you have it already edited in here, so I don't want to jump too far ahead, but just like the whole reasoning behind why people theoretically would have started eating mushrooms is like, why?
Because, well, the whole idea is like, I saw a meme. It's like, thank God that person that always the one person that ate stuff to understand if it was edible or not. Because you know what I mean? Because that's the idea of like that we needed to consume stuff to survive, right? And at the beginning of our existence, are we influenced by aliens or whatever, right? But like, how do we know what's good and bad? That guy that eats the fucking Joe Rogan talks about this shit, right? You eat the fucking the berry on the tree. And then fucking Fred falls down and dies. You're like, okay, not eating that berry. And it's
just
like,
a little fun fact: rats
Marcus,
actually do
you
that.
go hit the next one.
Family of rats, if they find a new food, one of them will eat it, and they'll wait 24 hours before the rest eat it.
Fucking crazy. Rats are highly more intelligent than we give them credit for.
Dude, I used to breed rats. I had like 30 hairless rats and
You
shit,
told
dude.
me that.
Like, I know a lot about rats, dude. They're fucking smart as shit.
Mhm.
But
It's
going back
creepy
into
that
what I
you-
was
you
saying, just the
bred
whole
a bunch
concept
rats,
of
though. You're gonna be like
following
that guy
herds.
from. Have you ever seen the wait? Have you ever seen that movie with
Willard?
Crispin Glover? It's
Willard?
like, the rat's a fuck movie. Guy
With all the
commands
fucking
rats.
rats. But dude, just the whole concept though of just following around herds and seeing shit and then seeing mushrooms grow out of it. So there's something that looks like a dick growing out of shit, and somebody was just like, "Yep, I'm gonna eat that."
I'm gonna eat that. So I've always thought too, part of the thing that I would assume influenced modern humans is watching other animals that are similar to them, watching what they
Yes.
eat. You're just like,
That's-
okay,
yeah.
that thing's eating that and it didn't die. I just watched that bird go and eat those berries and it's fine. And then it's like, oh, I watched
That's
that
a good
squirrel
thing.
eat those berries and it's fucking dead.
And they'd be like, "What if
I
what
mean,
happens
just-
if I eat that bird?" And then he like punches the bird.
Animals usually regret eating psychedelic mushrooms though, because bears will do that shit sometimes. And I've seen videos of
I've
like
heard
bear
about
cubs
that.
tripping fucking balls. But I tried to grow some shrooms in my backyard, bro, and the rats and just other animals. It looks like everything would come up and take one little tiny bite off of it, and then they wouldn't touch it ever again.
Really? Oh man,
Interesting.
we have to do at least a Patreon episode, so it's not like out in the airwaves too much. Where we talk about stuff like this, because I'd be curious of what you've done, how you end up structuring. Because I know there, I just before this episode, I listened to a magic. It's a 2 books in 1 magic mushroom guide. It was by someone with the last name Leary, but it wasn't Timothy Leary. It was like Terrence Leary. So I wonder if it's his brother or cousin. I haven't looked into it. But it was 2 books in 1. The first book was great, and the second book was all about how you cultivate mushrooms. And I was like, I don't want to listen to this while I'm driving. Like, I need to like sit down and like understand, because it just tells you the basics of how to set everything up, and you can't attain it unless you're like looking at it. You know what I mean?
I can give you the full fucking process. As far as
I
outside
would
goes,
love
bro,
to,
I live
yeah.
in Michigan, so like when you grow tubs and they start getting mold, that's when you toss them. So just for shits and giggles, dude, I would just take that shit and bury it outside and see if new stuff would grow. It
You're
wasn't like I
close
was-
enough where there is an opportunity where we could all hang out. That's what's crazy, because you are. I'm in fucking Southern Ontario. There, like, because me and Anton really want
I'm
to
in
do
honorary Southern Ontario.
Yeah, so like, oh man, fuck it. There's
I'm in
ways
Detroit,
to work
Michigan,
around
so
this.
I'm like right on the border going into Canada.
I'm in
Yeah.
Buffalo, so yeah,
We're
same.
so close. We're like literally an hour and a half away from each other.
I see Canada every day on my way to work. And every
The
day.
I see
first
Canada every time I go down to the city.
Yeah, that's I live in
On the other
Canada.
side, like, hello, Canada.
Canada was cool until Trudeau took over.
We Tom and I had a plan at one point when we first started doing this together that it was during the middle of COVID, and we were going to go over to the the things you put the quarter in and the viewfinders and what have you.
I'm
And
like,
we were going to like
looking at
hold
each
up a
other.
sign and like film it and shit. And be like, there
Yeah.
it is.
You guys should
Yeah,
have done that. Hey, guy, fuck you.
hey, fuck you.
In all fairness, dude, from wherever we're at in Detroit, like, you could probably honestly jump in the water, swim over there in like 10 minutes, and nobody would even notice you. And you could be like, I'm in Canada.
same.
I'm in Michigan.
You're probably Anton's about an hour and like an hour and a half. Like like from like where he is from me, about an hour 45 maybe if you include traffic like that. You might be even closer.
So I'm old enough to remember when there was a time where I could just go to Canada when I like without a special ID or anything like that.
Yeah,
16-year-old me, they're just like, "Yep, go ahead." Like, "Oh, okay." And
See,
we
I
also
remember that
used
shit
to
too.
take a boat on Lake Ontario and go from the States to Canada, and all you ever had to do was be like, "Yeah, I'm docked over here. See ya."
Yeah.
It was
Now
literally
you
like
can't
going to
come
another
in.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And like, and the thing is, now you can't unless you're from another country. Not gonna get into fucking my views on fuckface, blackface. But the first recorded use of psilocybin
3
mushrooms.
minutes, folks.
Yeah,
We can't
it's
use the
gonna
mushroom rule
happen,
'cause
man.
this whole
And like
episode's on
even in
mushrooms.
years from now, everyone will remember there was a piece of shit that ran Canada, and he did it for way too long.
Oh no, that's no judgment. That's just my personal enjoyment. I love clocking.
We're
how
always
long
like,
it
how
takes
do
you
we
to bring 'em
keep
up.
this show kind of like where it's timeless in an aspect? But I'm like, I can't help but mention what's happening in my country because it's crazy. The stuff that is happening in Canada and even the States, but like Canada's becoming like authoritarianism and like, oh yeah, go kill yourself if you have mental health. It's tons of fucking crazy shit that's happening in this country. So the first recorded use of psilocybin mushrooms dates back to around 7,000 BCE, which is crazy. And I would like to get a Patreon episode about fucking Christ and stuff like that. From paintings found in the Tanza Riff Rock, which I think is I'm pretty sure it's this image that I was showing earlier, which is crazy. And this was in Algeria. These rock paintings depict several images of humanoid figures holding mushrooms. It actually might be this one. I looked and and I've tried like there's statues. There is
Oh, that one. I was gonna say that's the fucking garden, but that's
there's so many different things. And like I looked for in our ancient culture, and I've thought this might be it also, though, because
Have you seen the mushroom man?
that
one?
is. I'll say
With
that
the
is
bee-looking
definitely
guy?
mushrooms.
the
It has,
what?
like the mushrooms growing on his shoulders. It's supposed to be one of the earliest like ideas of like an entity based on mushrooms.
No. This might be it also.
It looks like it
this
has like a
looks like
bee face
Algeria.
and then mushrooms growing on its shoulders. It's pretty
I
interesting.
looked everywhere for images that we could show, and there's like Google's Google, right? Oh, this one.
That one. Yep, that's the one.
Yes. That's
That's
crazy
cool.
looking. And he's got a dick. A big
That
old
was one of
dick.
the first like known like mushroom entity like depictions.
That's crazy. I bet you someone fucking saw this.
Was that
shit
Terrence
on
McKenna's
Mushroom.
wife? No, that drew that. Go back to the picture. Kat Garrison
Oh, yeah.
McKenna.
Oh,
I thought you were
That's
saying.
the one.
I was gonna be like, I don't really know who would marry.
No, if anyone's fucking a mushroom, it's Paul Stamets.
who would marry this guy.
What do you mean? The man is a fucking like extremely well educated. He does look like a cross between Tommy Chong and Allen Ginsberg, but
That's fucking true.
Bro,
he
that
also-
dude has talked to interdimensional elf, interchangeable construct beings.
yeah.
Like fuck, who? would
I'm
wanna
gonna
be with
get
that
there.
guy?
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna fucking.
Have you done your 5 dried grams in silent darkness, Tom?
No, Anton
Up
keeps
that
saying
shit, 7,
too.
homie.
7 exactly. No,
That's what I'm doing next. And homie from fucking Reality Czars, I'll shout him out. I liked him. He was saying that he used to do like these 5-6 grams of mushrooms and ride a subway, and I was like, fucking no thanks. In
that would
Portland,
be
I was like,
crazy. I
Can you
want to
imagine
imagine 7 and
people's
go to a
faces
deprivation
on a
tank.
subway?
I know.
Fuck
That's what I'm
that.
saying. And look at the homeless guy, like fucking like
No.
I couldn't imagine doing that shit. And that's why I'm like, there's
It's weird
set and
enough when you're
setting,
sober.
set and setting.
I've tripped balls on public transport before, not on mushrooms, and it's not a good time.
I
It's
love
just like
Terrence
everybody's gonna
turn in and
stab
stare
you.
down.
I
Yeah.
love
They're gonna
Terrence
stab
McKenna.
you anyways, let alone you're on mushrooms. You especially feel like the old lady sitting next to you or the lady with the baby
Yeah,
is gonna
oh,
pull a
I
fucking knife out of the
fucking know.
baby and stab you.
You know how when you're tripping,
Toronto's
like
so bad.
other
yeah.
animals know when you're tripping. Like, is that an
Dude, my
experience that you
fucking
guys have
cats
had?
will look directly at me. That time that I saw
Oh,
the
yeah.
uni on my pillow when I was doing the DMT, bro, my cats were looking right at that shit too. I know they saw that.
In all of the dropping acid and going to the woods and shit, we used to also like drop acid and go fishing. And I've never caught more fish in my entire life than when I'm tripping. And there's always 1 or 2 deer that come by, and rather than be skittish, just stop and just stare.
It's fucking
and they're like,
weird.
"What's up with you?" Like,
I've done a
Good.
bunch of
You're
mushrooms
weird,
now.
aren't you?
Yeah, it's
but
'cause-
like,
and that-
imagine that on the fucking bus or on the subway. You know that one unhinged crazy person is looking directly at you, going, "Oh yeah, I got one." Like, don't,
Yeah.
nope.
You're
stay
on the
over
same
there.
mental plane as me, aren't you?
Yeah, you can see him too. God, no.
that's what's crazy, because like even like my cat, like even Chelsea was like, Leia looks like some sort of like we used to have a cat named Luke and Leia. Luke died, but like she even said when Chelsea, she's like, it's crazy. They look like more static and stuff like that. And there was one time where like Charlie, my dog seems to know when I'm on mushrooms. We've actually had like the one day I was home alone and I told Anton, I was like, I'm gonna wake up and do a bunch of mushrooms. I did. And then I like laid there, like we had like a bonding moment, but like there was one time where me and Chelsea were tripping. She went to the washroom and I was tripping balls and he was in my lap, just like doing normal dog shit, but I was tripping out because he looked like he was spazzing out. And I was like, and it looked weird he looked like some sort of like cryptid creature, like almost like.
Dude, just to throw
Things
into the
that
whole animal thing, this cat right here, Artie, when I first
Oh,
got
hi,
him, he was
Artie.
like an abused cat. And I connected with him because I was tripping balls, dude. And I laid on the floor and I pet him for like 3 hours, dude. And his face
Yeah.
was so perfectly like symmetrical and looked like geometric. Like it was just like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, bro. Like it was like, I don't even know how to explain it unless you're on psychedelics, but it was like I could see like himself, like his soul.
I'm doing
you know what I'm
mushrooms
saying?
tonight.
Yeah.
I don't even give a fuck.
You
I'm
see
doing
the
I'm
building
doing
blocks
mushrooms
that
tonight.
make them up.
Yeah, but I like didn't just see him past the cat. Like I swear, like I saw his like consciousness like inside of the cat. Like it was just like
There's some things like
fucking
it
weird,
taps into shit like and we'll get into it on I think maybe if we do a live about this stuff. Like I told Anton, like I just did that 7-gram tea and my aunt has died. So my grandparents died, like my grandmother died, and my grandfather was in like a long-term care, and then he died not shortly after. And this is all on my mom's side of the family, and there's only like a handful of us left. And then my aunt died because she had abused alcohol and stuff like that, and got a tumor. And then my uncle died around the same time. Her brother, from a drug overdose. All these people died around a 3-year period. And I did a huge dose of mushrooms, and I wasn't there because of COVID and stuff like that, of being able to be there for my aunt. See her. No one was, because the way COVID was going, we weren't able to see her, and she would text me stuff while she was like delirious. And I had this crazy experience where I swear to God, I was like, where are you guys? Like, I don't like, are you guys in another reality when I was tripping balls? And I heard my aunt's voice say, I'm here. And I was like, is this in my head? Like, I started tripping. I was like, is this in my head? Like, what am I? It was crazy. The things you can experience on mushrooms is beyond our comprehension.
That actually
Dude,
led me into the other question that I had, which is if you guys have ever had like psychic experiences while tripping.
Oh,
That's what I was literally about to say, bro. There was this
Well,
time,
shit,
a
there it
few
is.
times when I was tripping, that I would do this thing with my friends, and they were able to do it too, bro. I still don't even know how to explain this. We'd cover up our
Oh,
eyes.
you've told me this. You told me this. Yeah.
And we'd be able to still like feel and see like the room around us. And we'd have one person be like, put up numbers with their fingers, and we get them right like every fucking time, dude. It was like the creepiest thing ever. Like you could get like a full feel of your surroundings without even.
No, we
visually
should
seeing it.
try that someday.
We've had like full on like not like a full conversation, but a full communication before with just looking at each other
That's
and
so
while tripping and stuff. And it's
I've had visions on mushrooms too, twice, of being the same person at 2 different times, and I was like a Viking like mushroom shaman, dude. It was fucking weird.
Oh,
it was
cool.
like I got pulled
Our
into it
past
so
lives
hard
connect to shit.
that I couldn't see anything besides this vision, dude. It was fucking weird, dude.
That's crazy. That's where I want to get. I'll keep fucking reaching for it. I'm gonna like.
That was a 7-grammer. That was a heroic dose.
See, and I've done a 6 point. It was like 6.5 or something like that. Tea, which I've noticed, right? Obviously, from not doing the tea because it dilutes it to an extent, of just eating them raw. My trip lasts longer, obviously, and you have like more vivid experiences, right?
I don't know about you guys, but I always get like pukey from when I eat like the actual matter. So I always
Yeah.
do tea tech just because it gets
Yeah.
rid of that like wooziness
I've had
in your
bad
stomach.
shit.
I
with
get
mushrooms.
same. I have pretty bad stomach issues, and like
I was like, it will go away after an hour, about an hour.
when I have like really
then
heavy,
you start tripping balls hard as fuck.
I've never thrown up yet.
yeah.
I would throw
Actually.
up every single time I'd eat them, bro. But I always would know that
Weird.
right after I puked, I'd be looking in the toilet and everything would go geometric, and that's when the trip like started hitting fucking hard.
We'll bring the. I got a lot of stuff to go through. So let's near the end. I want to ask you guys about the mirror thing. Have you ever looked at yourself? But wait for that. So obviously there's depictings. You have like obviously ancient. I knew this would happen because we've all experienced mushrooms. So that it's like, whoa, have you had this experience?
Getting too sidetracked, but it's still good content
so
though.
100%. Of course, this cannot be obviously taken as definitive evidence of like, these paintings that maybe they use psychedelic mushrooms, but also it's given but given how widespread magic mushrooms have been used throughout history, it seems unlikely that it's not the case, kind of thing, right? So throughout this first recorded evidence of human use of psychedelic mushrooms, we can speculate that they have been used longer than these paintings even suggest. In fact, Terrence McKenna, the guy that looks like he's ready to eat some cheese all the time.
Can I just get a milk steak with jelly beans on the side, raw?
I love Terrence McKenna, but like he does look like some sort of rat creature.
I love the way when he talks because his voice
Yeah,
matches his
yeah.
body perfectly.
It's so true. I'm a rat. I am a
But his
mouse.
voice is weirdly enticing. Like
It
he's
is.
one of those voices that's like a very nerdy guy's voice, but you could listen to that shit for like 4 hours easily.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I don't know if anyone's checked it out, but I'm gonna shout out. There's a podcast called it's existed for a long time, but it's Psychic Salon. It's great. I've listened to a bunch of episodes. I went back because they have like recordings of Timothy Leary and Terrence McKenna and all these other psychonauts from like the 60s, 70s. It was probably around like the 80s by the time they were actually recording this stuff. But it's pretty interesting because all this stuff is like there's talks of Terrence McKenna like in like colleges and Timothy Leary at Harvard and so I shout Psychic Salon. It's fucking sick, and I only knew about that because Joe Rogan mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna look into that, and it was fucking crazy, man. So Yes.
I was just saying my two favorite cigarette-soaked voices to listen to are Alan Watts and Robert Anton Wilson.
Love Alan Watts. You have no idea. That guy, he's got me through so much fucking
But
bullshit.
they both have very cigarette-soaked vocal cords.
I know, I love it. Obviously, so Terrence McKenna proposed the idea that human consciousness maybe was made possible by ingesting these fungi. More of this shortly. As well as obviously spreading far back, psilocybin mushrooms have been used obviously in a broad geographical spread of around the world, right? So in fact, these mushrooms appear to have been eaten wherever they were grown, much in obviously we have South and East Asia. Religious imagery appearing obviously that it influenced mushrooms. Vikings, as Shane kind of talked about him thinking he was
Fruit of the gods.
Yes, they actually they reported in stuff that taking Muscaria, which is sounds crazy.
That's the red and white cap one, right?
Yes.
Isn't that the one that's
Amanita?
supposed to be yeah, that's the one that's supposed
Amanita
to be
muscaria,
filtered
yeah.
through a reindeer first?
Yeah,
Yes,
so
and that's the whole
it's
thing connected
actually
to Santa Claus and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually a neurotoxin. It's not actually psilocybin, so it's a totally different like chemical compound that creates it. But if you ingest it yourself, it's a neurotoxin and it's not good for you. It fucks you up. But if reindeer ingest it and then you drink their urine, it pushes it out, but it filters out the neurotoxin parts, and then you get a trip. But from that it's more of like a drunk, like psychedelic feeling rather than like a normal
I'll drink
one.
reindeer.
Okay.
I'll drink reindeer piss. I don't give a fuck.
Dude, I've seen this thing. They do like these art exhibits where they'll actually have reindeer eating amanita, and they'll just give out reindeer piss for people to drink, and they do it as like art exhibits.
That sounds fucking awesome. Fucking crazy. Which is fucking nuts, and that will be coming down the road because I do want to do our Christmas episode about that this year. But druids are thought to have eaten these caps. Oh, this is fucking libertarian caps. Liberty caps, psilocybin, semianlencentia, and so on. I can't pronounce.
Those are, I think, the little wood dwellers, if I'm not mistaken, the ones that grow on wood, and they're like crazy fucking strong. That it's like 1 gram is like a dose.
Oh, okay. And getting into even like Paul Stamets stuff like that, he's talking about how he's like obviously through his life is experienced all sorts of psychedelics, looked for them, and looked for mushrooms specifically, where him and his brother at one point actually coined a certain strain. I can't remember which one it was, and they found it and they brought it home. And this is one of his like famous stories that he told in Joe Rogan, and that he ingested it. So they picked a bunch, and this is the one where he had the premonition that all these animals would be dead. And he marked down the end of the world. And then within a week, the next week, there was a huge drought that happened. He had a vision of all these animals being dead. And he drove past it after this drought happened and all these animals died. And it's like a crazy story. But he talks about how they found this certain strain and they had to take 20 grams. He's like, they just kept eating them to get the same effect that it would be for 10 grams. So imagine having to sit there and eat that many to get the same effect.
Stamets has eaten so many mushrooms that it's nothing for him. Like the
No,
man
that's what I'm
wears a
saying.
mushroom
If
on
he
his
hasn't
head.
died, man, like that's crazy. I fucking this after I talk about this, man, I don't know. I might stay up tonight and fucking do it. So the earliest evidence of magic mushrooms used it was a mural that was found in northern Australia, which depicts mushrooms and psychedelic illustrations, which I do think it's either this image that we're showing now, or it might be this one, because there's two prominent images that we get this idea that obviously magic mushrooms have existed for so long.
This one would probably be no. I would assume it would be the first one, not the second one, if we're talking Australia, because
that's
white folk, and we're talking about Aboriginal tribes. So plus
that's
that other one is Garden of Eden. That's just heavily like Western.
Yeah,
you know.
And I was talking to a dude at work about this because like I work with everyone. Like I work with the guy that like he's a Jehovah's Witness, but he doesn't like he doesn't really practice it. He's like he just works out all the time and smokes weed, and he actually does mushrooms too. I gave him some he bought some of the golden teachers off me. He still has some, and it's interesting because I'm like the one that's not really religious. And I said to the one dude, and he's like really Christian, but believes it comes from his heart or whatever, blah, blah. And the funny thing is, Anton, guess what? He has a gay brother, just like how you have a very religious brother. And I said I was like, it's kind of funny how very religious people seem to have the brother that's like, gay or something like that, because I think it's for a reason to switch. It should at least like have them more accepting and switch their consciousness. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that
He's like,
weird
sure.
though?
Sure.
Or it might be
okay,
partly
whatever.
the upbringing too, that it's just like
Yeah.
people just go.
But I know your brother he's a Christian Orthodox, isn't he? Like
My brother, yes, now he's Eastern Orthodox. Yeah.
See, and the guy I work with is super like Christian, and his brother's also gay. So I was like, the parallels almost of like, you know what I mean? Of like that, it seems like people that are super religious, like it almost like whatever reality does is put someone in a specific place.
Eastern Orthodoxy is for people who are gigantic fucking nerds and also like
I
convert
love
to Christianity,
religion.
because it's
I just
all
thought that was
just like
weird.
learn this. It's like, okay.
But I told him, I was like, oh, there's a theory that like essentially that the whole religious construct was actually just from a mushroom. And he was like, oh, maybe. I'm like, you believe all the stuff that you're told through a fucking book that was
Yeah,
written by
the
man
talking
based on
snake
Sumerian text.
convincing a woman to eat an apple, that's fucking perfectly normal. But you being like, well, maybe, these psychedelic experiences that people had back in the day may have led to them structuring their beliefs, which are of course just a smattering of other beliefs that were taken during
Sumerian
conquest
text and
the burning fucking bush. How is that
it's
not
weed.
psychedelics?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, fucking crazy. So obviously this goes throughout fucking our prominent history. The earliest evidence was that the depictions, and I do think it's this one from the depictions of these cave drawings. Archaeologists have dated it back to 10,000 BCE. Rock paintings in Spain suggest the magic mushrooms were around and around prehistoric people in Europe around 4,000 BCE. Magic mushrooms have since, obviously, like I said, been in our civilization for about 12,000 years ago, and possibly used even before then. It was also obviously used by Aztecs in rituals, including hallucinogenic substance known as called the flesh of the gods, which we mentioned earlier. That's where they took it from. That it might have also been shrooms. They don't necessarily know, but it probably was.
Shit,
I'm not saying it was aliens.
They thought mushrooms were given to them from one of their gods. I don't know how to fucking say the name, but it's Xochipilli. I'm like brain farting on how to say it.
Yeah. Oh no, I do that all the time. Don't you worry. I
don't even want to attempt to try to butcher that name because I know I'm gonna totally fuck it up.
See, this is that's the one that Anton was talking about. This is the 13th century fresco depiction.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam and Eve of the tree of knowledge, which that's the whole idea of the tree of knowledge might just be someone ingesting mushrooms and then like having like these fruitions, like it's crazy, man.
It's a consciousness awakening of just realizing like the world around them, seeing it from a different perspective completely changes like how you view the world.
Yeah. And like, I sent Anton the pronunciation, but I don't think he has it pulled up, but it's Teoniac. I'm not going to pronounce it anyways.
Wait, where did you send it?
I sent it in text I'm
using my phone as the camera.
I know. It's the language of the Aztecs. It literally translates into God mushroom, and this is it's not light name because this is what they saw it as, right? And it's thought that the Aztecs, along with other Central and South American cultures, worshipped magic mushrooms, and it's crazy because the huge amount of Aztec iconography and sculptures depicting mushroom-headed beings, thought to be deities, were everywhere. Like, where's the one? This is fucking crazy. Where's that one I have? It's fucking nuts.
The little mushroom army, little stone mushroom army.
Yeah. Oh, I cut it out as imagery. I don't know where that is now. It makes me mad. But this is an example of it, obviously. But fucking weird. There's like literally tons of them, and these. Look at these guys. These are Mayan mushroom stones in Guatemala.
There's a dog one too, all the way on the left, middle row.
Oh yeah. It's crazy because they're worshiping this stuff. They took it like because they would see this thing, they would ingest it, and they would be like what their whole culture would be like structured around to an extent because it would give you. And the thing is, that's why it could take you down a weird path where you're like, this is the thing that the gods gave us, and then one guy's like, I had a vision that we have to sacrifice the firstborn child to the gods, and it's like this guy's got it. Fucking
I just
crazy.
imagine somebody taking a shit ton of mushrooms, then looking at a field of mushrooms, and they all grow those little faces, and all of them just start telling him different shit to do.
Yeah, man.
Like, sacrifice your child, love everybody, the world will expand. They all just have different voices, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna pick that one that looks like a dog. He's saying some evil shit, but I think he's right.
Then you're Berkowitz. Fucking crazy. It is
Transmissions
so,
from Sirius.
man, so nuts, man. So early Spanish invaders observed and sometimes actually partook in these mushroom ceremonies, and it appears that it was a ritual and reserved mostly for upper classes of Aztec societies, which eventually, even if Shane was going, I would like to dive into the Aztec culture and stuff like that. It would be everything in this show like ends up branching off in a spider web to other things that we could talk about, because obviously there's tons of all these iconographies in it, and as high quantities of these mushrooms were hard to come by, that's why it was kind of structured for like the rich, as the way we're going with the World Economic Forum, and you're not going to eat meat, only Klaus Schwab can eat meat kind of thing.
Well, so basically, it's one of those like, we know the benefit of taking these things, but if the servant class ever learns that they're getting fucked,
So
then we might have a problem. So let's just restrict it for us.
That's the thing that confuses me the most about this whole decriminalizing thing, is that I feel like the main reason why they've like kept psychedelics away from people and schedule them as like the worst drugs is because they don't want people
to wake up.
So it's like, why the hell are they decriminalizing them now? There's something weird
I have
to
a
it,
theory.
man.
It's because the idea is that Big Pharma wants to take hold of psilocybin and essentially synthesize it so it's created by Big Pharma, and then so they can sell it. But the thing is, you can't patent nature the same way you can't. If the coronavirus was created, if it was created by nature, you can't patent it, and it was patented in 2001. So
I was saying, I know you're in Canada, but like, sweetie, this is America. You can patent fucking anything.
I know you can
if
patent AIDS.
You can make a buck on it. They will.
There's a patent for AIDS, patent for the fucking influenza. There's a patent for like every single disease known to man.
That was what I was saying though about the whole weed thing, bro. They're trying the tobacco thing, which we can get into further on. Is they're separating you from the spirituality of the plant. So if they start 100%. Synthetically producing psilocybin
and then they can put
anything make the original plant obsolete, then the spirituality is disconnected. You're just
the thing is, they'll never be able to do that. That's the thing about mushrooms, even in weed though. But like mushrooms, essentially, because it will grow on its own. Mycelium grows underneath the fucking earth, and they'll never be able to
up like 80% of the fucking ground, bro.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I love mushrooms, man. But
so
anyways,
basically, people, make sure you start running your heirloom strains now. Start growing them where you know where they're from and preserve them as much as possible.
So just a little trick for anybody. So because this is some shit you can take home. If you find some psychedelic strains and you want to keep them and you just want to preserve them, not have to worry about growing them, you take them with a fresh head before the gills rip and the spores drop. You put it on a piece of tinfoil, put a glass cup over it, let it sit 24 hours. You'll get a nice little imprint of all the spores. Close that shit up in tinfoil. Boom, you got it saved.
So that's crazy. So when I'm grinding it up, right, and all that like fucking smoke poof comes up,
that's the spores.
Are you able to take that and then grow them again?
You want to suck that in.
That's the spores. That's what I was talking about. That dusting that you get that's on that tinfoil. We can get into the process later on, but essentially you put it into a liquid syringe, and then that's pretty much how you regerminate, and it's like the seeds.
I want to know how you do this because you have like great knowledge on this stuff, and I want to know because I love mushrooms, man. They're my life now. And it's crazy because like all the and I joked I do videos of me grinding them up and making my microdoses and stuff like that for my like Instagram stories, and I like made a joke where I was like, yeah, I've tried to inhale this, it doesn't do anything because I've been like over like the grinder. This is like nothing happens. Don't worry.
I don't mean snort it. I just mean like don't let it go to waste.
No, like I inhale it like because it's so like you have to like carefully open the lid and it goes poof, fucking crazy, like Johnny Knoxville when he's like farting over somebody's face,
Oh my god,
I love that fucking bit. So don't be fooled in obviously imagining that just because these societies took mushrooms that they were totally peaceful and wonderful. As we said earlier, one report claims that upon obviously there was when they would actually have a new emperor, many prisoners were sacrificed, their flesh eaten, and their hearts cut out. And everyone took mushrooms. Fucking crazy. There's nothing else, but it would be quite a trip, I
mean, I feel like,
bro, you're killing me with that hair. You just look so natural when you flip it, and you've been flipping it this whole show, bro. If you're wondering why I randomly laugh, it's because you're killing me with that fucking hair.
I know. You should have. Anton was making fun. We did the Halloween special. I don't know if you saw it, but I dressed like a hippie. Billy had
Yeah,
no
he did.
costume, so I was like, "You got a suit?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm gonna get you clown makeup, and you're gonna be Trudeau." And he was, and it was the Halloween special was probably some of the funniest, if that's a word, the most funny shit we've ever done. Just
was a good time.
because the content, it was just it, man. The context of all the conversations were right there, and Billy didn't know what he was gonna be, and then I was like, and we're putting the makeup on him, and I was like, "Man, you look like scary." And then I took like a gram of mushrooms when we were doing that, and it was a
Dude,
great
you
time.
couldn't even look at him for half
couldn't
the
even look
episode.
at
And
him.
when he
I
got
couldn't
up
look
and
at
went over the camera and just pulled the makeup down through his face, I was losing
I
it.
couldn't even look at the dude.
So good.
So
was that the cover of the episode? I remember seeing
Yes.
it at the end. He's like, and he's just like,
Yeah.
ha.
Oh man, fucking frightening. The Aztecs were by no means the only indigenous cultures to take part, obviously, in these regulatory, like the regularly using psilocybin mushrooms. Obviously, the best known, but they are the best known when it comes to this stuff. Magic mushrooms, psychedelics are to be used by all sorts of different cultures. Arguably, even the most famous is ayahuasca, the mystical DMT containing concoction that was used to communicate with the spirit world. Because of this, psilocybin was used in religious and spiritual ceremonies for divination, calling upon spirits. Like if you go back even to me and Anton did a whole episode about the scrying mirror, the black mirror and staring into it. And it set us down this talk about psychedelics, of that idea of like looking into the different realms of stuff.
The reason why you can't get into the mirror realm is because the other you on the other side is blocking you as you push your hand in.
That's fucking crazy that'd be. So obviously it's
you have to do that thing where you fucking envision yourself shrinking and disappearing in the mirror. But that's not a good
I just
idea.
imagine somebody trying to sneak up on the mirror and they're doing that thing where they walk over to the side and then they pop in real quick.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta get him on this one quick, and then you turn around and you try to spin real quick and put your hand in.
It's fucking scary.
Damn it! Turn back around.
So
but imagine the one time you do it and it works, and it's the most terrifying thing that could possibly happen.
It's that ripple shit you see in movies where you touch it and it's like water.
Yep.
So it's supposed to be
just on the other side, and you're both like, "What the fuck?"
It was used for healing, and an anesthetic, which I think is crazy. Anesthesia, for pain, which I was like, I guess, but it could make you feel every single thing.
That's why I won't fucking smoke weed and get a tattoo, man. You feel shit more.
I've done that
so much.
It sucks,
dude. I did it for the longest time, and I was like, "This is fucking horrible." I would much rather just go into it sober because you can trance out into the pain.
Yeah. Yeah,
you focus on it too much when you're stoned. You can't do that shit on
100%.
anything. I just will eat a shit ton of food going sober. Call it a day.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, man, that's because I've definitely showed up at least to 2 tattoos stoned, and it was not fun. Like,
dude, edibles even worse.
Oh, I couldn't
and
imagine.
that's closer to psychedelics,
edibles,
so I imagine that like mushrooms.
Yeah.
So that sounds fucking awful.
I would rather chew a bunch of mushrooms than do a high dose of edibles. I've had 2 experiences where I felt like I was dying, where I couldn't breathe, and it was fucking man. Edibles, you do too much, it can fuck you up.
Just a fun experience, bro, that I got to share on this show. Gabby, my girlfriend, she did some edibles like a weekend or 2 ago, and I didn't know she ate them. And we watched 1408, bro. She was like, in that psychedelic mindset, dude.
Yeah.
And she was like mind fucked, and she was like, she fucking was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And she came in and like laid on the bed sideways. And I'm like, you're laying sideways. She's like, that was an awful movie to watch. I thought I was.
Shut her. She's told me that she got super into the show and she like loves fucking Strange Brew. So fucking shut her. That's fucking sick, dude. It is funny because like it can really fuck you up. And we actually have a talk to do do a commentary on 1408 because I love that movie when I was younger. Me and my buddy we got stoned and watched it when I was like 16, and I was talking to actually Aaron about it, Anton, and they're saying we should like do a commentary on it because it is such a trippy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do it, not to get on a whole other tangent about it, so I'm just gonna throw this idea in there. But I would love to hop on that shit talking about that because I've been fascinated by this concept and theory lately. That rather than there being like places that are haunted or like entities like we think they are, it's more of like a location that's conscious. And like I watched that movie a couple days after I started thinking about this concept, and I was just like, whoa, dude, shit happening for a fucking reason. Like it's literally about the hotel room itself and not like there actually being like a conscious person. Like mind fuck.
So, like more like a vortex or a ley line type situation that's just like an entity all in of itself that's just perhaps like unperceivable, or like one specific area in a building that
more like that
an entity. Okay,
so crazy. We'll get into like that would be
more
a fun
like an area is like conscious.
Okay.
Like the
Yeah.
area is like, I don't know how to explain it. Like we perceive conscious as being like tied to something physical, you know, like a body or whatever. But what if there's like
Yeah.
things beyond that, and they're just like a consciousness to a location, and because there's a consciousness to that location, it's not that those like souls are trapped there. It's more that like part of that consciousness is that it can like replay things and just like
Like the
control the
Cecil
reality
Hotel.
within
Well,
that
that's the whole idea of
space
like
and being, you know, just weird shit.
Would you qualify the Yunta Basin as one such area? The
I
Skinwalker?
haven't dug into that one, so
Okay.
no, we have yet to cover
I don't
that
know. I
too.
feel like that's beyond that. But yeah, just like
Yeah.
some of these like haunted locations that people view, where it's just like
about
for example, the
Cecil-
perfect
Cecil
example is like
Hotel,
the
man.
replay paranormal shit, where they
Mhm.
don't actually like interact with the people around. They're kind of just like stuck in
Oh,
that
yeah.
Residual
rotational
haunting
like
stuff?
pattern.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
residual
like,
hauntings.
that's
a
more of like the
permanent
location
imprint.
or place being like a conscious thing, you know?
A permanent imprint into a location. Which like that's why I said the Cecil Hotel, because that shit is like just rife with paranormal activity, and it's just like because of the trauma that has been in one area. I do think they could because we've talked about it before of the idea of like I told Anton, people walked into a bar, they thought they were having a drink, having a good time. They go back the next day, the bar wasn't even opened, and then they saw on the fucking wall there's a picture of people that they saw from fucking like 50 years ago. It's fucking crazy. There's so many things we can get into. Especially
Just another
as we're-
concept with that room thing I was saying too. You go into like Japanese folklore with like the yokai, and they talk about like after something exists for 100 years, if you like take care of it, whatever, like it becomes conscious.
Yeah.
Like literally like that, but like a room or like a place. But there's the other side of it where if you don't treat it good, that it becomes like an angry spirit. And that could be what some of the hauntings are, is that it's like a location that becomes conscious, going off of like the Japanese folklore idea of like
you
yokai.
should come on. We talked about strange Japanese legends, but you should come on when we dive back into, because I know Anton wants to get back into like some of the hauntings and weird paranormal events that happen in Japanese culture and stuff like that. Because they
You
believe
guys
in
want to
all
talk about the
sorts of
kappa pulling souls
Yeah,
out of buttholes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Or the fucking thing that there's tons of shit.
Trick
Those
that
weird
fucker into
turtle
bowing
creatures.
and you're good.
So obviously, like you have
that
like
water,
will-
baby.
It
You have
loves
certain-
cucumbers and it
I'm-
will go in your
Yes.
butthole.
Yes.
you have certain ancient
No,
cultures.
oh god, what's the oh my god, this starts with a T. I'm forgetting it. The nutsack raccoon.
The fucking
Tanaki.
Tanukis, yeah.
Tanuki, yeah.
Dude, I
That's-
never look at Mario the same.
Nope.
Knowing that it's not a fucking flying squirrel, it's supposed to be flying by a giant ball bag.
It's a nutsack. Yep.
My penis is tingling right now.
No, I fucking love Japanese folklore and cryptids.
We'll-
They're
we'll
some of my
get- we'll
favorite.
get
Like the
into
Spider
that.
Woman in the Woods is fucking great.
It's very over sexualized. They're very into
Oh, of
buttholes
course.
and dicks.
Yeah.
So obviously, you have like all these ancient cultures, right? Getting into Central Americans using it through rituals. Obviously, peyote, morning glory seeds, salvia, the actual plant of salvia.
Fucking salvia.
Salvia is fucking stupid, man. They used to sell that shit in fucking convenience stores.
Have you done it?
Yeah, numerous times, and it got. The more I did it, the more I was like, eh.
Have you done it properly?
Yeah, that's my next
Have you
question.
ever
Yeah,
heard of
yeah,
like
inhale
Hamilton's
it super
Pharmacopoeia?
deep.
No, Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. He actually went to Mexico and did the shit. You're supposed to like ingest it like raw. Like you're not supposed to smoke it. You're not
It's
supposed
crazy
to,
how
you're
it
supposed to like
existed
eat it
for
raw.
like for
Okay.
3 years. It used to be like in all these convenience stores. And I'll just quickly, the first time I smoked it, I was with these people. We're sitting on a picnic bench. And I was with these two chicks and my buddy, and then it felt like I had my headphones around my neck, and it felt like there was a snake around my neck. And this one chick I was with, Quinn, she was like a friend. She's a weird looking girl, but she looked like she turned green, and I was like, whoa! Like, and it was for like 10 minutes. It's not. And then
She was a
it was-
reptilian, bro.
yeah, man, there's some weird shit. So when the Spanish brutally conquered indigenous Americans, people obviously outlawed rituals involving psychedelic materials, labeling them as barbaric and against the Catholic Church. No, I wonder why. Because of these sacred rituals that involve magic mushrooms, they had to go underground. So indigenous tribes in Siberia used hallucinogenic mushrooms called the animascaria, which obviously we talk about consuming through reindeer piss, which is fucking crazy that they even learn. They even found out how to do that is like mind blowing. Who was the
Dude, even
first
that-
guy
All it
that
takes
was
is
like
one person.
like
to be like,
like
"Oh,
fucking
drink that."
Dude, even going into the ayahuasca thing, who the fuck figured out that you take
Yeah, that's
mimosa
crazy.
bark and then this shrub that doesn't even grow anywhere fucking near it, and you put it together, and then boom, you get ayahuasca. Like,
well, isn't the whole thing with that the plants spoke to the shaman and were like, you go
Yes.
here and you go here?
That's
Well,
they
yes.
asked them, and they said the plants told them. That's
I would
that's
say a
literally it.
lesser psychedelic was probably at play, or even just a forest elemental, or just some sort of conscious, maybe the consciousness of the land is what
Yeah.
showed them that.
Going back
Weird.
into that fucking whole concept with the like places and locations being conscious
Yep.
and not being like tied to like a physical vessel.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
fucking true, man. All relates back. So obviously in ancient Greece, infamous ritual ceremonies that worship the gods, and there's all these weird mysteries surrounding that. They drank a psychoactive concoction that contained a mixture of psychedelic mushrooms. The ceremonies were so secret that if you would reveal details gained from them, you could have the death penalty. So if you're like, oh yeah, I went and hung out with all these weirdos that had a bunch of little boys under their robes, and I had these crazy spiritual experiences. And it's just like, and they told someone, and then this guy's like, "Hey, did you hear that fucking I don't know a Greek name, but fucking Robbie told this guy about this experience, and they fucking killed him for even like talking about it." It's crazy. So yeah, figures like
I wanna
Play-Doh.
join a mushroom cult. That sounds pretty fun.
We should that might be an episode down the road, because as I dive deeper into psychedelics, I'd like to talk about more things to do with psychedelics, obviously. And there is like mushroom cults and all sorts of weird things. Famous figures like Plato, Homer, not from The Simpsons, and Aristotle attended rituals like these. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy how prominent these mushrooms were in our ancient culture and stuff like that. It's fucking nuts, man.
Dude, look at the cave. Like, that's literally a psychedelic trip. Like,
I can imagine being
there had to have been like
tripping balls. So fucking nuts.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about though, right? The cave with the whole like they were living in the cave and they didn't know that the world existed outside of the cave.
The allegory.
Oh,
for
oh
Saving
yeah,
Bio?
yes.
Yeah.
That's a yeah, because
that sounds like an
that's our
allegory for
reality.
mushrooms as a whole.
100%. And
Yeah.
even this idea of how our structure is in our society of people that like trust the government, even, and they don't realize the world outside of it and stuff like that, right? So obviously ancient Egyptians. And I'm starting to read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which I know it's going to be kind of tough to get through. But I really want to do a whole episode about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I told Anton about this in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, because I have two dope ass books that will look like they got the cool, they have like a gold looking string through the spine of it. And it's a fucking dope looking book. And I want to get into all this stuff, but they dabbled into the food of the gods. They were believed they were placed on earth by the god Osiris. And God, like Osiris is like the god of the dead and shit like that. So they all go so fucking deep. Because of how special they were, they only consumed them for religious reasons, mostly by priests and upper class. So of course they consolidated towards the top, right? And now we're gonna get into this stuff. So like obviously Terence McKenna, famous psychonaut, he's a component of everything and all things trippy. Proposed that psychedelic mushrooms were a crucial development in human consciousness. In his book Food of the Gods, he claims that obviously primates descended from the trees and entered obviously and came down to the earth and as these trees and in these entered the savannas, is how he put it, and retreated back to the savannas and enroached whatever. This thing is weird. The primates begin to obviously consume as they came down from the trees, whatever, how he formed it, how he said it, and they started consuming mushrooms, and this may have influenced their consciousness to an extent.
I love a little atom bomb in the background. It's just like everything else is like, wow, awesome, death.
Like the aliens fucking shaking hands with the astronaut.
Yeah, and the what's that? That's the egg of life or the seed of life?
Yeah, it's crazy because
I
like
can't
we're
remember
showing,
exactly what's. I have a thing of Gilgamesh holding that, a pin on my corkboard I'm looking at right now.
so shout out to Jim Figueroa. This painting is from 2021, which is crazy. As far as the signature goes, and if you look up the Stone Ape theory, you'll see this imagery. It's fairly cool. I'd love to have actually this poster. And the idea that it has like the alien shaking hand and the astronaut, where it's like, did that come from mushrooms? Because like then where the whole alien thing, like, does the idea that we evolved from taking mushrooms, does that now just take away the idea that aliens exist? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Or could it play into the alien thing? Like, just a funny concept I was thinking about. You know how, like, when ships will go from one place to another, there'll be like muscles that'll attach themselves and they'll get dropped in other areas.
Mhm.
What if
Yeah.
mushrooms were like intergalactic
So,
muscles and they
I
landed
like
their
that.
ship and they just fucking spread?
There is a
Yeah, 'cause-
ship. I can't remember exactly what it was, but one of the ships that went up came back down with a green mold on it. So it's possible for it to survive
Yeah.
in space. Plus, that goes into panspermia, where it's like, you know, asteroids and comets hit planets and may have been debris
Yeah.
of other planets which carried those, and that
That's
lived within it,
fucking
and then it hits and
crazy.
it finds that perfect breeding ground and it grows out of it.
That's crazy. Because obviously he saw like maybe they were like, you know, roaming around in herds of prey, and they would continuously come across, you know, fresh dung, poopy, and then obviously which psilocybe cubensis loves to grow. And McKinnon takes the evidence maybe of the rapid shift towards more social and conscious behaviors that occurred during obviously a short period of time, which you have the idea where the fucking the idea of that we came the evolution theory is there's a missing link, which I do believe to an extent, because this is only an idea. My belief is how we were created was that aliens took us off the earth for about 100 years, genetically modified us to bring us back down to mine gold, because they had no gold on their planet because they destroyed themselves with Lyra and the whole war that happened supposedly. But I like that theory because to me it makes sense that aliens would take off some sort of simian ancestor from this planet that they maybe even saw how grow to the extent that it's at, and then use us as a slave race to an extent, which could be true, could not be true. It's just a theory.
But doesn't that, like, I feel like that theory is slightly more of like a pessimistic one, because you're like, oh fuck, war and slavery exists everywhere in the universe.
But yeah, I know, and I'm obviously a huge belief in the reptilians and that people are dark entities influencing.
I mean,
our
I'm about as
subconscious
close to a cosmic nihilist as you can get, but in
Yeah.
a weird zany sort of way. So I feel you on that.
I mean, what if I've thought about this theory? What if we're looking at like the missing link, like it's actually Anunnaki DNA, and it could theoretically explain like reptilians and like cryptids and shit?
Yeah.
That they just created different races to do different jobs, like reptilians to do some shit underground, Bigfoots to fucking clear out trees and shit, fucking Mothmen to take things to farther locations, created people to be like a jack of all trades, and that
It's
missing
crazy.
connection between all of us
Mhm.
is actually Anunnaki DNA, and that explains all the humanoid looking shit. Is that the humanoid part comes from Anunnaki DNA?
It's kind of a cool theory because everything is theorized, right? Where like I will always, until the day I die, will believe in aliens, and that whatever aliens be or dimensional creatures, and stuff like that. I'll always have that belief, right? So,
5 rings to the moth royalty, but they were
Yeah.
all deceived, for another DNA was created.
So obviously we can't really prove the stone ape theory, but it's an interesting one, and it's fucking crazy because it does make kind of sense.
It's
in
personally
some
one of my
way.
favorites, honestly. Like, out of all the human consciousness origins, Stone
It's so
Ape is
simple, but
pretty
that
high
could
up there.
possibly be why it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And then who knows if they were influenced by, say, an alien to like, you know what I mean? Like that
Well-
they reach this higher consciousness, and the alien maybe was like, oh, they're ready to evolve, type of shit.
Like I said,
Haven't
they
there
could have
been
dropped that
studies-
shit on accident. Like it just attached to the ship and just fucking grows everywhere. And we're looking
And
at
then,
it like
like,
it's
they
the fruit of
come
the
back-
gods, but it's actually just like the muscles of their ship. They're like, fuck it, just scrape it off before we leave real quick.
Well, before we get into anything else, that makes the theory of the whole thing in the Bible, how when they talk about them, the what is it, the Nephilim, I think, coming back down to earth and seeding with the people because they left us and didn't know what we would become, right? And then they're like, they come back, and that's what and this is in ancient text of them wanting to mate. They found the women of
Well, the
Earth so
Nephilim is strictly
beautiful.
biblical.
Yeah, that they wanted to mate with the people, and the Bible is the Bible, right? I'm not religious by any sense of the imagination.
There are always stories of
But-
demigods in other cultures, though, that are
Yes.
children descendants of the gods. So it's not.
It's a
strictly-
like I think if you read between the lines of Bible and ancient text and Hinduism or any religious construct, and I like Russell Brand's theory that every religion almost pretty much says that we live in an illusory state, illusion that we all have to participate in, but it's an illusion, but we just don't understand it yet. And there is that guy Andrew Schultz. His podcast is great. I'll shout out because it's awesome. They sit there and they drink. They have a really cool setup, and they have tons of cool guests on. And he had Russell Brand on. Russell Brand I don't give a shit what people think about him. I've liked him for a long time, and he's someone that goes against the norm, and he has his own fucking theories about shit, and I like it.
My favorite Russell Brand theory, and it's controversial, I know, but when the world hands you a Jeffrey, just stroke the furry wall.
Yeah. I know it's funny. To shout that out. I have a weed shop literally like a 2-minute walk from me. Like it's so close. And I was like looking for it. I don't normally go there. I have one shop that I really like because the people are fucking awesome. And they had a Jeffrey, and I loved it. Fucking great strain. It was so nice. Like got you super stoned, but not where you're like anxious and stuff like that. And I told Anton about it.
I feel like that might have been a mushroom night for me, or I was out drinking, and I remember you texted it, and I was like, wait, no, you didn't make a Jeffrey, did you?
Yeah,
like,
he asked me that.
That drug doesn't, that combination of drugs wouldn't work together because you can't smoke all of that.
Yeah, so crazy. So, and then we're going to bring into obviously what is happening nowadays, right? Because what we're sure of that mushrooms arrived in the United States in the 20th century with little help from an executive of the JP Morgan Bank, which is crazy considering, they try to kill people on the Titanic to fucking further along their agenda. Go back to that episode. He discovered them on vacation and thinks that these are fun quotations and I should bring them to my buddies. That's literally like how he phrased it. So he does jump ahead a bit to 1957, and then R. Gordon Wasson, a successful banker and big fan of magic mushrooms, is traveling through Mexico, where he learns more about this stuff, and he finds himself in a Mezatec ceremony, the strain that I've tried that I actually really like, because you could literally go out and do things on it, not like blue meanies or other kind of strains, right? And conducted by a shaman, and it features shrooms. They get all fucking stoned. Wasson claims he didn't do any, but he was all used to that exercise before. I don't know what that means. He's been aware of these exercises, of these mushroom rituals. I think he claims he didn't do them. Just in case, maybe the business people are like, why are you doing fucking drugs, dude? While they're like snorting a huge lot of coke.
All of his stockholders were like, look, we all do it. Just don't admit to it because the prices will plummet.
Yeah. He does write about his experience because he ends up doing them in Life magazine, calling this article "Seeking the Magic Mushroom." The piece is credited with naming the magic. This is the piece, the article that actually supposedly coins the whole use of magic mushrooms and making folks more aware of them. Around the same time, American scientists start studying shrooms, and so they enlist the help of a Swiss scientist, Albert Hofmann.
Abby Hoffman.
Known as the father of LSD, which will end up leading into our LSD conversation. He's probably a really interesting guy, to say the least. He also was the first person to extract psilocybin from the mushrooms. Wasson brings to the state from where he was in Mexico, brings the mushrooms, whatever. And then Hoffman actually was, he was the one that was in charge of the chemical research of understanding shrooms. And he's like, that make people feel a little wacky. Fucking crazy, because all of this was like this guy brings it and this guy studies it and then it kind of like branches out from there. So without Wasson, it might not have been prevalent in the hippie era as it was to an extent.
Isn't it amazing too? Like not to get onto the MK Ultra thing because that's totally sidebar, but the fact that all of this stuff pre-counterculture movement was being heavily researched in universities, in prestigious universities. Leary was in Harvard, for fuck's sake, and it's like it just. Something had to occur, and whether or not it was just the social awakening of people being like, I'm not going to fight this fucking war. And they're like, we have way too much invested in this war. Get your ass in the fucking grinder. Like, whether it was 100%. Just that, and now they're like, we need society to be more docile and more Aquarian, if you will, which is why it's being legalized now. But
pour some fluoride into the water.
I think the simplest answer is that the generation that was involved in the counterculture are now the oldest generation around, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most reasonable
alternative businessman.
They've been doing it this whole fucking time, just doing it underground, and now they're like, all right, we got to legalize it now because we've been doing this shit for fucking years.
So we're gonna get the secret's out. We can't keep a lid on this anymore, so let's just do that. Yeah,
we're gonna get
a wrap on the LSD though, because that's what we're using to control people's minds.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the LSD conversation that we will have after I try stuff like that will also lead into before we cover MK Ultra, which Anton, we like discussing doing these big, huge episodes, like how that we know, like I've said before, we did Dahmer, we did almost 4 hours where we can do these big ass topics where we're getting into Jimmy Savile now. We've done Antarctica, where I want to do MK Ultra in a sitting. I want to just cover it all and fucking push it out there and not have to do all these like fucking parts of it. It's just talk about it as a whole. Because it's a fucking huge topic.
Well, you gotta do LSD and then MK Ultra because those two
Yes.
expand into
Yeah,
each
because
other.
I'm saying
But they
we'll
need
do
to be
it
two
first.
separate things.
Yeah, 100%. We're gonna do LSD on its own, and we'll have Shane on for that one 1,000%. Because you definitely have way more experience than I. So we'll have to talk about a quick sidebar for everyone that's like that has never tried mushrooms. Psilocybin doesn't work right away. It can take an hour or more to kick in. Meaning, if you don't feel loopy, please don't take more. That night that I was saying to you guys, yeah,
These
the
aren't
night I was-
working. I'm gonna eat more. Like,
so that night I was saying
Hey,
to you
good
guys
luck.
where I was gonna like I was off the next day and I'm like I'm gonna do some mushrooms and stuff like that. And then so I was like I took like 3.5 grams, something like that. I was like, that's not really kicking in after like 45 minutes. So I ate like 6 of my microdose pills. And I said to Anton when I told him about this, I was like, the mushroom was like, oh, you want to fuck around, eh? Oh, you want to fuck around. And then I was like, I remember, and I found this artist that I love, and I don't give a shit. People obviously might know about her, but I love this artist, London Grammar. She has an amazing voice. She's like my crush now. Crazy, like impactful, emotional music. And halfway through this trip, after I'm like shitting my brains out and having all this crazy experiences, sweating in the washroom, and I'm laying on the couch, my cat, my dog are beside me, is like laying there, and I'm just tripping balls. And I'm like, I had the great idea to plug my headphones in to my PS5 controller so I could listen to the music while watching the video, and I was just tripping balls, crying, having this emotional experience. Because if you want to fuck around, the mushroom will make you find out. 100%.
But if you don't fuck around, then you'll never find out.
Yeah,
yep,
it's very
this is
true.
Very true.
So obviously it comes in waves, and I'm going to do a video for everyone, like follow the YouTube stuff, because I will be doing like little short videos of the best way to be doing the stuff, setting all that shit. So what's more important, trips can come in waves, and they can last 5 to 7 hours. So if you do like maybe the tea, might be only 3. So if you're going to do mushrooms, don't do it on a day that you have anything planned. You know what? So how it's going to start out, expect like euphoria and giggling. The first time I ever did mushrooms, I had a laugh attack. Then when me and Chelsea did mushrooms, and I was like just laughing hysterically. And then I was like, I calmed it down, like, and then I was like, oh no, it's coming back. And it's just like just laughing my fucking head off. So fucking funny. Obviously, intense feelings of wonder and deep thinking, staring at your hands, alternate perception of time, some light visuals and lights will be moving. It's not all fun and games because it can cause intense paranoia. It depends how your state of mind is, confusion, nausea, and a feeling of impending doom. You have to be in a good mind state. I've taken mushrooms when I am in a low vibration, so to speak. I was lower and I was like, oh, I'll take some mushrooms. Does not go well.
They come at you like,
fuck your life, bing bang.
Yeah, literally.
You will understand that time has no fucking meaning when you are in the middle of a bad trip. It's gonna feel like eternity.
That goes into my like worst mushroom story, bro. Is that I fucking rolled 2 blunts, smoked 2 blunts, and came back inside, and somehow all that time period was 15 minutes. I don't even know how the fuck that's possible.
You see,
that's the worst.
That's
You're
also
like,
something that is dangerous too.
Left.
Is being on mushrooms and smoking weed can change your trip. And I've
Mixing
also had
anything can change your trip.
experience recently where I've like, because I drink and I have alcohol readily available all the time. I have like a bar and stuff like that. So like I've done mushrooms plenty of times within the past year where I'll like drink a little as I'm coming down, and it's not always a good choice because it can shift your brain and it's not fun.
I feel like valerian root and 5-HTP and a little bit of magnesium are the go-tos for after trips.
I have a new tincture.
Edibles is mine. Usually, as soon as I start feeling the peak and then it comes down, I'll eat some edibles and then it'll just kind of smooth out and even out.
Edibles.
Those are great too.
See, valerian root, Anton, I have a new one where it's valerian root. It's a bunch of different things. It's for sleep. And actually, it says that if you have it's all like natural, but if you have insomnia and also if you have anxiety, you can take it 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah,
so I was like, that's cool.
There's that, and so one of the ones that I have is just called stress relief, and it has valerian, passion flower, and a couple other things, and it's just an alcohol tincture, and I just put a couple drops in water, and it's.
I love it. I take it raw though. And then so it's like you're supposed to like deep breathe. So that's
Always
where
deep breathe when you take it raw.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You have to ask.
You got to
Anton.
relax into it and let gravity do the work.
Gravity. Now back to the history lesson. In 1960, Timothy Leary, a counterculture and psychedelic icon, he came forward. Obviously, he reads an article about the magic mushrooms, the Life article. He decides to make his way to Mexico and try it himself. He does, and he allegedly permanently changes his life. And he talks about too that it's like his 1 5-hour trip. He learned more about himself than his entire year's work, like being at Harvard and all this shit of how, because he's a genius. Either way you want to slice it, Timothy Leary is a very smart man, or was a smart man.
Trying to remember, but I want to say he was like a Freudian psychologist, and it just that whole thing was shattered after doing
fuck
psychedelics.
yeah.
He's like,
Timothy
this guy
Leary's
has no
great,
idea what he's talking about.
Leary says he learned more about his brain and himself during the 5-hour trip than he did in the 15 years of school. He returns to Harvard University, where he starts the Harvard Psilocybin Project to conduct experiments based around psychedelic drugs. It's all an effort that obviously proves his theory that drugs can lead to a higher state of consciousness. Allen Ginsberg, a beat poet, catches the wind of this and heads to Cambridge to do drugs in the name of science. He quickly becomes a big fan and tells his famous friends Jack Kerouac and Charles Mingus about the fun he's having and the fungus that led to obviously this charge of like the changing the way he thought. Anton, can you tell me a little bit Jack Kerouac? I feel like because I was
actually
familiar.
pretty obsessed with the beats when I was younger. Like while everybody was like pretty into hippie shit. I've talked about it before. We had that monster movie show, Offbeat Cinema, and in the background somebody would always be reading Howl. So I was like, what the fuck is that? I dig the beatnik aesthetic and like went into it and shit. Ginsberg, great poet, complete and utter garbage human being. William S. Burroughs, same, but also just a weird chaos magician of sorts. Kerouac was kind of the more normal of the three of them.
As a poet, right?
Yeah, he wrote On the Road, but On the Road was written under the influence of not Benzedrine, but Benzedrex or whatever the fuck the old school speed was that you would just be able to crack open, like put in a coffee and just fucking drink it if you wanted to. It's all written on one scroll of parchment. He just sat there and
trippy,
like wrote it out. But they're all like, they were the precursors to the hippie movement.
Mm-hmm. That's fucking cool. And do you know who Charles Mingus is?
That name sounds familiar, but
I've never
completely
heard of
blanking on it.
So they're into it, but Harvard seems to grow tired of Leary's shenanigans. He's fired in the mid 1960s, but he doesn't care. He starts actually like distributing psychedelics, I think even acid and stuff like that, through the United States at the height of his hippie movement, which who knows, because of this journey, we'll probably eventually dive into Timothy Leary. And because the famous Dead series, which we haven't got back to yet, I have tons of ideas of who we want to cover next. But I believe that like Terrence McKenna and Timothy Leary should be part of that as its whole. Which is crazy because now it's the hippie movement, it's free love. In the 1970s, magic mushrooms officially were made illegal in America. Please don't stop doing them, though. I don't know why that was written in, but writer and obviously you got Terrence McKenna releases his book, Psilocybin Magic Mushroom Grower's Guide, in 1976, which is a huge deal. He says in his book that growing shrooms is only slightly more complicated than canning or making jelly. Shane, do you agree?
Honestly, it's as long as you know the process and you keep everything sterile and clean, it's pretty fucking straightforward.
I got to pick your brain about this stuff because the backyard I have, I could easily probably grow it outside. There's like, I have probably different options.
I mean, honestly, you'd be better off growing it in monotubs inside.
Yeah,
just because you can control the environment better. But the outside stuff is just for shits and giggles. Like, do the same shit I did. When your stuff molds, throw it outside and just see if it starts growing. If stuff grows, just fucking take them and use them as personal shit.
Crazy. So cool. So obviously, like fast forward all the way to 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University confirmed that magic mushrooms can be used medically to treat PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Can also help people quit smoking. The following year, amid a mass push for a nationwide decriminalization of marijuana, Denver, Colorado decriminalizes magic mushrooms, and it's not legalized, but it's a huge step because even in Canada, It's fucking crazy. The first shroomery opened in Alberta, and the second shroomery opened in Toronto, and then the third one I think was in Hamilton, and it got raided, which is crazy because like the same way this happened with the fucking when they first legalized marijuana in Canada. It's like I'd see this shop all the time. I'd get weed for them before it was like dispensaries were everywhere, which they're in every fucking corner in the small city of Brantford. That's like a fucking mini Toronto because of how like just the shit that ensues there. But it's tiny compared to Toronto. And there was like literally like, I don't know, fucking 30 dispensaries in this small city. It's like crazy, probably more than that now.
We were joking when I lived in Colorado where it was like it got to a point where there were more dispensaries than fucking Starbucks.
Dude,
like we drove down the street and we're like
that 100%. That's exactly the same thing.
Forever in Detroit, there's 8 Mile. And on 8 Mile, it was always the thing that you'd count the strip clubs because it was like every other building was a strip club,
so
bro.
Crazy.
Now you count the dispos because it's not every other building. It's every single building is a fucking dispo. And then here and there, you'll find a strip club.
It is crazy because now it's so prominent, and that's why I'm like, and I still buy it, but there's my conspiracy brain of what the government is spreading on this. But I've known people that have like worked growing it and stuff like that for the government, and they said it's pretty like other than they can't tell you about everything, but like how it's pretty. They're not spraying it with shit, but then you have the idea of like what are they doing to get rid of some of the shit that eats it and.
There's a ton of regulations that go into that.
Yeah. They spray with shit. We do that shit at my work, bro. They fucking spray that shit.
That's what I'm worried about. I want to grow my own fucking shit just because of that, but it's so easily and readily available as I can go down the street and get it, right? My conspiracy brain's always like, what am I like? Is this going to be bad for me down the road? Are they doing this on purpose? And you know what I mean? So, but
dude, the whole spray in the rooms, you got to wait like 20 minutes before you can go back in the fucking rooms. Because you can't.
Would that affect you if you're smoking it though?
I mean, it's not like you're rinsing off the buds. Like the shit's sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
Crazy. So obviously it's going to later that same year, Oakland, California, obviously decriminalizes psychedelic plants and fungi. But you can't you're making something that's grown naturally illegal is always the stupidest bullshit to me. Magic mushrooms have come a long way. They will never be fully legal, but the decriminalization and the medical use is a huge step. And love Paul Stamets to bring this to a close. But there's a fantastic fungi on, I think it's on Netflix now. Amazing documentary.
Yeah, fucking
love
phenomenal.
It. They put a lot of time into it, and it goes into the idea of fungi because I take a bunch of stuff now where I even want to get into taking reishi. Sorry, I'm playing with my fucking hair because that wig fucked up my hair. Like every time I wear a wig, my fucking hair goes all bananas. But like it's fucking crazy. Like in all this stuff that I fucking, and I'm glad I found like it's crazy because a site that I used to use, I'm not gonna ever shut it out, but so I used to use to get edibles because you can't get strong edibles.
Oh no, Tom froze.
That's what I was about to say. I didn't know if it was me or not.
I saw you moving and I was like, okay, it's him.
Give it a second.
There you're back.
There he goes.
I was like, yeah, the fucking maybe Chelsea's.
It's raining outside of my house, so I literally thought my internet went out. I was like, God damn it, because I was getting
you froze for a bit too. It's all good though, because we're at the close of this, and I fucking loved getting into this stuff because I've wanted to do this for a while, and I want to do it justice because I it's changed my fucking life, man, and like it is crazy that like, and I found like the site I was using for edibles. And because you can only get certain, you have to, man, the edibles they sell at the dispensaries, I'd have to eat 5 of them to really get a good experience, right?
Dude, that's my problem.
Legal edibles,
the highest they make in Michigan is 200 milligrams on an edible that I've seen.
That's way better. They can only sell to 10 milligrams, the highest that they can sell in the dispensaries. And I talked to,
well, that's a full package. Like the little each individual gummies, the highest I'll see is like 20 per gummy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying 10 in a pack.
They'll give you making my own.
They will give you a package of 1 edible and it's 10 milligrams or a drink that's only 10 milligrams. And I talked to the chick. I was like,
fuck off. I need at least like 50, 60.
Yep.
Yeah, I need at least 50, 40, 50, maybe 60. I used to eat these suckers from the site I'm talking about, and they're 125. And that was like a perfect stone, right? Where it's not overboard. Where I told Anton I got 1,000 milligram edible. I thought it was a bunch of edibles. It was 1, and it looked like an ice cream cone. Me and Chelsea cut the tip off, and then we cut it again. And I thought I was gonna die. And she's like, I'm just super high. And she kept saying like, this will be done eventually. Eventually, this will be gone. I will not like be like this anymore. And I was like, like trying to fucking breathe and thinking I was dying. And the one time I thought I had COVID during like the COVID hype because I couldn't breathe. And it's like, she was like, did you just get COVID within an hour? And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Why is it
but,
a
like-
regular thing for edibles that you forget that you know how to breathe?
It's weird.
It is the
But-
strangest thing. Yeah, it's just like oh shit, my breathing's on manual. I gotta.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
So like I talked to the one and I was like, okay, they have alcohol everywhere, something that causes fights, something that like people become maniacs on. And I can vouch for even me with sometimes I've been drunk on shit like that. I became a happy drunk throughout my years, but I was a teenager with all my mental health issues. I went kind of fucking nuts at times. And the fact that you can buy a 26er, okay? You can buy a 40, you can buy a 60. If you choose to drink that all in one fucking sitting, that's your choice. They allow that to happen. But with edibles, they're like, oh, what if somebody has something happen to them? And it's just like, you have the choice to take this much or whatever. So the idea that we focus our whole fucking culture on alcohol a lot of times, and there's LCBOs or whatever, fucking beer stores or whatever, are everywhere. But like psychedelics or fucking weed you can't have because what? Like, honestly, it's fucking stupid.
One of the most
but I mean,
annoying
let's-
things to me is that they view weed like alcohol. They're like, you can't drive because it's just like alcohol. You
Yeah,
can't do
that's-
this because it's just like alcohol. Like, no, bro,
It's
I can be
not.
as stoned as I fucking want to be, and I'm totally fine driving. If I drink like 3 drinks, bro, I'm not getting
Yeah.
on a fucking wheel.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
Yeah.
I'm an avid summertime bicyclist in the city with all my friends because we just love getting backpack beers and going for bike rides because I'm not getting behind the wheel of a fucking car. But weed, you can smoke that fucking all day, every day. I mean, I've been sitting here hitting this pen the whole time,
Yeah.
and yeah, no,
So-
it's not even kind of the fucking same thing.
Dude,
it's
I've
like
smoked so
remember going
much
for
now that I don't
Bernie's.
even realize that I'm stoned anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's like literally hitting this packs the entire fucking episode. Yeah, no, it's not even mildly the same. And
So
I mean,
I have a-
every experienced smoker knows that.
So I have a chart pulled up. This is your psychedelic experience, the psilocybin experience. So this is so people can break it down that maybe you have never tried it. You start small. That's all I always tell people. And I'll do a whole video about this for you too. But obviously you have like a 0.5 is like a mood enhancement, crisp concentration, your flow state will get better, and then you get like close to a gram. You might be feeling stoned, mild euphoria, visual enhancements, short-term memory anomalies, alternate sounds. Then when you about to hit a gram is the threshold. That's liftoff, as Paul Stamets would say. And that's when you see some more vivid colors, closed eyes, visuals, distracted thought patterns, enhanced creativity. And then once you start getting like 2 grams to 3.5, that's warped kaleidoscope style visions, which I've definitely seen numerous times, mild hallucinations, 3D closed eyes visuals, and then distorted sense of time. And then obviously the heavy dose, when you get 3.5 to 5, is heavy hallucinations, your ego dissolves, mild disconnect from reality, complete loss of time, out of body experiences. And then obviously 5+ is like where ego death, where you like you see yourself beyond all this bullshit. You completely disconnect from what reality is. And I've learned that from my experience with psychedelics, reality is not as real as we think it is.
I've seen fucking grids in the sky, bro.
Yeah.
I've
I
gotten
told
the
Anton
sacred
about
geometry fucking building block shit. Just like, oh,
I told Anton about this when we were outside. We used to watch. I'd do psychedelics all the time, watching movies outside, taking mushrooms, watching movies, and I like a lot of the times like I knew the movie, or like a lot of times we watched something like we watched like Signs, which was actually kind of fun watching that shit outside by a fire, and I just look up in the sky and I can see the stars and they're connecting in like a grid formation. It was fucking crazy. I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking nuts.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Chicken Little, bro, where like the grid falls out of the
Yeah,
fucking sky?
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
what it looked like to me.
Oh shit.
It is
What's the
crazy.
dome.
And you know what? To end this, like, I will personally say that psychedelics have changed my life. Anton, since you started this show with me more than a year ago, have you seen the change in me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I really wanted, when you were showing all those pictures, I wanted to be like, we get it, bro. You listen to Tool. Shut the fuck up.
I don't like how Tool took Alex Gray's, like, it just.
What are you
it's-
talking about?
I hate
Alex
Tool.
Gray did a ton of art for Tool. Like,
I know,
Alex
I just
Gray and
don't
Maynard
like
were
Tool.
like this for a hot minute.
I don't like Tool.
Or sorry,
at
Adam
all.
Jones and Alex Gray
Yeah.
were pretty.
I don't like
Unpopular
Tool.
opinion. I'm also not a fan of Tool, even though I am a psych nut.
Yeah, I don't like Tool. I'm
I
sorry.
loved Tool back in the day. Like when I was a teenager, Tool was the shit, but it was like, math rock, and it was the first
that's
version of that
trippy.
that I'd ever heard, and I was like, wow, this is like fucking awesome. Maynard's a piece of shit. I saw them live. It was the worst show that I saw that year, and I was just like, yeah, I'm fucking over this.
So this image, there's a famous Alice Gray art of like a guy laying on his bed and seeing all the eyes. There was a time I took 4 grams of mushrooms. And
That's also
Chelsea,
the cover for the Spirit Molecule, that book.
Yes.
I think he did
Yeah.
that artwork for that book.
Yeah. Chelsea's upstairs doing something. I don't know if she was on them too, but I laid down and I had a fucking blindfold. I put on my eyes and I laid there and it literally looked like 1,000 eyes were looking at me. And I was like, nope, not for that. Like, fucking, because I've said to Anton that I want to dive into that stuff eventually.
Just another weird observation. Have you guys ever taken a shower on psychedelics where you just feel
Yes.
like you're in this giant empty vat room? It almost feels like that shit from like Stranger Things where it's just like the dark fucking black area with like water on the floor.
Mhm.
It's like the most creepy, ominous feeling to take a shower on psychedelics, especially when you close your fucking eyes, dude.
So like running, like I said before, running water centers me. So if I get really like, if I'm having like okay, I'm mild panic or what have you, I will go and like I do this mental exercise where it's like the water hits you, it turns muddy and crappy, and then once the water runs clear, you're good.
Oh yeah,
But like
yeah. I
I've
like that.
always wanted to do at least 3 or 4 grams and go into a sensory deprivation tank because I've done
Oh.
depot tanks, which I love, but like
My-
I want that to be the floating darkness. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
either
wanna try
I'm
that
at the
too.
point where it's like, give me a battle that'll either kill me or set me free. Let's go.
I think you're going to
See-
be in another world at that
Yeah.
point. Like
Oh, I know,
legitimately
that's
in
the
another
point.
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, that's the plan.
My
mean,
buddy
I-
Raz that's been on the show before and stuff like that, he's got me super into this stuff like way beforehand. Like I've told Anton stuff off air, which I won't mention, but like I mixed a bunch of shit stupidly and had crazy paranoia, ingesting like mushrooms and some other stuff. But Raz, he ended up selling it, but he owned a float studio where they would do he also has his girlfriend's very spiritual, and they would do ceremonies and like sound circles or whatever and all this shit. And I did the first time I did the tank, I like rubbed my eyes, I'd salt my eyes, I couldn't get comfortable, and it wasn't the greatest. And then I tried again, it was nice, calming, but he did like a half quarter in Canada terms at 3.5 and did it, and he's like, it's fucking crazy. He's like, you couldn't imagine the type of feelings that you get and see and things you go through. But yeah, psychedelics have changed my fucking life. Well, specifically magic mushrooms. I'll get back to you when I try LSD. But I really enjoyed this. Yes.
Get your passport. Come down for bicycle day because I'm really
Yeah.
trying to convince a good chunk of my friends to do just trip and ride our bikes that day.
Yes. So let's bring it to a close because it's been 2 hours. We have yet to pee. I also have to. So
Yeah, you saw my little message over on the
Yeah,
side,
I
dude. I've
was
been
like,
holding
yeah,
that shit for an
I've been
hour.
holding it fucking for too. So this is what happens when we get like, there's sometimes like on the Antarctica episode, I was like, yeah, we gotta like take a break. It's like fucking 2.5 hours in.
For once, I don't have to, and I always have to
Yeah,
piss
no.
like 20 minutes into the episode. I didn't drink anything, and all I've been doing is smoking. So I'm like, I got
I
caught
drank
like
a
a
gin and
motherfucker,
tonic.
but I
small
don't have to
gin and tonic,
piss.
so
Good old energy drink got me having to go
Oh,
like
G
a
Fuel, nice.
yeah. We'll stay away from that shit. I do not like energy drinks.
Oh, dude, I
Anyways.
drink Bang like it's fucking water at this point. It's bad.
Dude,
Remember
this
Billy
is my
said?
one, the G Fuel Naruto Sage mode thing, and it's a limited edition one, so I'm pretty bummed out because there's one gas station I know that has these, and I've been buying every one that I can find when I see them.
Every
Oh,
time I
shit.
drink an energy drink, I feel like I'm on cocaine. I'm gonna have a heart attack. But so
That's how I
would-
feel. I kind of dig it though.
Dude, okay, so fun fact, I mean, you know what I party and what have you at the bars. I would much rather like crack a Bang or like a super heavy caffeinated energy drink after like midnight of drinking to continue drinking than start doing bumps. Like fuck that.
yeah. Well, neither for me. So, obviously, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was pretty cool. And I always wanted to dive into this, considering how much, mushrooms have changed my life and the way I think and stuff like that. And so obviously, you know where to find us, Stranger Podcast, www.strangerpodcast.com. And Shane,
Charlie with
shout
his
out,
2 cents.
yeah, Shane, shout out all your shit.
I try to make it quick and easy. I do multiple shows, Inquiries of All Reality, Bizarre Encounters, but I put it all under one kind of name as Open Minds Media. So if you want to come and find all of the different shows that I do, come and check out the Open Minds Media link tree, which is linktr.ee/open_minds_media.
Yes, and there's obviously stuff in the works to actually create a YouTube show with Shane that will just be specifically for YouTube, because he's going to build up YouTube and create one too. So there's stuff in the works. So obviously be prepared and look for that stuff, because I will let you guys know when we start really doing this and we get the first episode. And then, you know, I'll get you go subscribe to Shane's show, show him some love, give him a 5-star review. I had a lot of fun with this, and Shane, man, you're a rock star. You'll definitely hear Shane on a Patreon episode for A Stranger Danger. And then we can kind of really get to know each other and stuff like that.
Fuck yeah, Shane. Thanks for joining us, dude. This was a blast. I had a
This is
real
awesome.
good time. I can't wait to talk more about this shit too.
Yes. Fuck.
I was gonna say thanks
I
for
feel
having
like-
me on, guys, and I'll have to get both you guys individually on my show. I've had Tom a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
still
I
got to
see
get
you
you,
later,
Anton,
Tom.
because we missed the show on Sunday.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
whatever,
Oh,
we'll
fuck,
reschedule
yeah,
it again.
Yeah. You guys, we'll work it all
We
out.
absolutely
because-
will, yeah.
100%. Tons of stuff in the works, obviously. And I'm super excited because look out, you know, subscribe to the YouTube Strange Brew podcast, because we probably will be doing eventually like a psychedelic live where we discuss psychedelics as a whole. So go fucking, you know what to do. Stay strange, you pieces of shit. All right.
Uh...
Peace.